Chapter 704. The power of Yi Xing's punch was too terrifying. Meng Zhongshui flew several miles away before falling to the ground. Meng Zhongshui spat out blood. His internal organs had been shattered by Yi Xing's punch. He had suffered a fatal injury. Captain! Meng Zhongshui's team members were horrified. They quickly rushed toward Meng Zhongshui, who was several miles away. Whoosh! Yi Xing was about to end Meng Zhongshui's life when a fiery red figure appeared in front of him. This person was stepping on the void. His whole body was covered in raging flames. An extremely high-level flame star floated in the sky. It was the captain of the other team, Meng Qi. It seemed that Meng Qi was proficient in the power of fire. Meng Qi was in a good mood after Meng Zhongshui suffered a fatal injury. He smiled faintly and said, "Little bastard, you taught Meng Zhongshui a lesson. This is good and somewhat beyond my expectations. However, I have to tell you that you still have to die. Only death awaits those who make an enemy of the great Yuan dynasty." Yi Xing's gaze focused on Meng Qi, revealing his killing intent. Although Meng Zhongshui wanted to kill Yi Xing, at least Meng Zhongshui respected Yi Xing as his opponent and would not insult Yi Xing verbally. As for Meng Qi, this was the first time Yi Xing had met him. Meng Qi kept calling him a little bastard. Yi Xing had a name. Everyone in the Star Continent knew Yi Xing's name. It was impossible for Meng Qi not to know. Yi Xing did not want to waste his breath on a person who did not even call him by his name and directly called him a bastard. What he needed to do was to kill him. Make him shut his mouth forever. Boom! Yi Xing punched out. It was still the 9th move of the Dragon Clan's martial arts. There was an explosion in the void. The golden fist aura carried impact ripples as it blasted toward Meng Qi. Yi Xing's action was within Meng Qi's expectations. He sneered, "Fire Dragon's 8 skills." Meng Qi's palms formed into claws. He lifted and clawed. Surging fire Yuan Qi gathered under his claws to form a roaring fire dragon. This flaming dragon was vivid and lifelike. Raging flames raged around it, and its might was shocking. The flame dragon followed the momentum of Meng Qi's claw and charged forward, colliding with Yi Xing's golden fist aura. Boom! After a loud explosion, the flaming dragon paused. Flaming scales on its body splashed everywhere. Yi Xing's body also trembled as he felt a terrifying force coming at him. He retreated dozens of meters. Meng Qi was indeed much stronger than Meng Qishui. He definitely deserved to be ranked 2nd on the sovereign list. Although the Honorable Lord list only included the Honorable Lords of the Deyuan dynasty, those who were ranked high on the Honorable Lord list were definitely among the top of the Honorable Lords in the entire Starland. For example, the Dark Star cult's strongest half-step king, Zhuo Jinghai, was only ranked 5th or 6th on the Reverend list. After all, the Great Yuan dynasty was the ruler of the Starland. It had too many Honorable Lords. To be able to stand out from the many Honorable Lords and be listed on the Honorable Lord list was a reflection of one's strength. Since Meng Qi was ranked 2nd on the Honorable Lord list, his strength could be imagined. I'm not on the same level as that trash Meng Qishui. Little bastard, that was just the most ordinary move of the Flaming Dragon 8 arts. Try and take another move from me. Twin Dragon Roar. Meng Qi sneered and shouted. His hands formed into claws as a sea of fire Yuan Qi gathered. Under each of his claws, a flaming dragon was formed. The flaming dragons were controlled by Meng Qi. They both roared and rushed out at the same time, attacking Yi Xing from the left and right. Just one flaming dragon was enough to force Yi Xing back. Now that 2 flaming dragons were attacking at the same time, their power could be imagined. The first 9 moves of the dragon race martial arts couldn't be blocked. I must go all out and fight, Yi Xing thought. Dragon race martial arts, the 16th move. The dragon race martial arts had 81 moves. Each move was stronger than the previous one. Moreover, after every 9 moves, the power would increase greatly. The power of the 9th move was already very different from the 10th move, not to mention the 16th move, which was much stronger than the 10th move. Whoosh! A terrifying aura erupted from Yi Xing's body. He threw out 2 punches to meet the 2 flaming dragons attacking from the left and right. 2 explosions sounded at the same time. The two flaming dragons collapsed under Yi Xing's punches, turning into splashes of flames. Although the flaming dragons were lifelike, they were not real flaming dragons. They were formed from flaming astral energy and fire yuan qi. Once they received an attack that exceeded their limit, they would collapse. Meng Qi's eyes revealed a look of shock. Yi Xing's strength had increased by another level. This was completely beyond his expectations. At this moment, Meng Qi had lost his composure. Yi Xing always made others think that his strength had reached its limit and that he had used all his trump cards. In the next moment, his strength would increase greatly. The feeling he gave others was as if there was no end to it. He was like a deep, unfathomable pool of water. Meng Qi was shocked. Yi Xing's attack did not stop at all. The killing intent in his eyes did not diminish. Instead, his strength increased. He used the 17th move to attack Meng Qi. The golden dragon fist collapsed the void, forming a black collapsed area. It carried a terrifying power as it blasted towards Meng Qi. Meng Qi's mind shook. He used the 8 arts of Flame Dragon. He controlled 2 flaming dragons to block Yi Xing. Boom! Boom! The 2 flaming dragon fists were destroyed. Yi Xing's fist strength was still terrifying. It shook Meng Qi and forced him to retreat. The 18th move. Yi Xing's fist changed. Its power increased. His strength was even more terrifying. He used the strongest move he could currently use. Meng Qi still used the 8 arts of Flame Dragon to block. The 2 flaming dragons roared and surged out, colliding with the golden dragon fists. Boom! The 2 flaming dragon fists were instantly destroyed. The terrifying fist strength struck Meng Qi's body. Meng Qi's body was blown away, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. The hearts of the spectating High Lords twitched. Meng Qi was ranked 2nd on the High Lords list. Yet, he was beaten to the point of spurting out blood by Yi Xing. This was too hard to believe. The High Lords were dumbfounded. Meng Qi fell several hundred meters away. The flames around his body surged as he roared in anger. "Little bastard, you dare to injure me? I'm going to turn you into ashes today. Turn you into ashes." Meng Qi used the ultimate secret art of the 8 arts of Flame Dragon. The surrounding fire yuan qi turned into flaming dragons and drilled into his body. Soon, numerous flaming dragon heads appeared. There were a total of 8 dragon heads on either side of Meng Qi's head. It seemed like Meng Qi had 9 heads. The ultimate secret art of the 8 arts of Flame Dragon consumed a terrifying amount of energy each time it was used. Meng Qi had to ignite his astral energy to support it. In this state, he could fight to a draw with the number 1 on the High Lords list. This was the ultimate battle strength of a half-step king. Yi Xing had seen the half-step beast king Dark Abyss Flood Dragon. Meng Qi's current strength was extremely close to the Flood Dragons. Yi Xing wasn't surprised at all. Burning Blood Law. Yi Xing also used his final trump card. His strength once again rose. Chapter 705. Die! Meng Qi roared and rushed toward Yi Xing with his 9 heads. Meng Qi clawed out and the 8 dragon heads above him spat out flames, forming a terrifying flame dragon. It contained a terrifying destructive power and attacked Yi Xing. The higher the level of the bloodline burned, the stronger the power of the burning blood technique. The divine dragon blood essence was a powerful bloodline. After being activated by the burning blood technique, Yi Xing's strength increased by several times. Compared to Meng Qi's ultimate secret skill of the Flame Dragon's 8 laws, the increase in strength was much greater. Boom! Yi Xing punched out and a golden dragon fist rushed out. The void in front of him collapsed instantly. In an instant, the golden dragon fist collided with the blazing flame dragon. In an instant, the earth shook and the entire island shook. In the explosion, the flame dragon's body was covered in layers. Looking at the golden dragon fist rushing toward him, the madness in Meng Qi's eyes turned into fear. Bang! The punch landed heavily on Meng Qi's body. Meng Qi's body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. He died instantly. Captain Meng Qi! Some of the great Yuan dynasty's honorables exclaimed. Some flew into the sky and turned to flee. The rest of the honorables were only half a beat slower. They all flew into the sky and fled. Even Meng Qi had died in Yi Xing's hands. The remaining honorables were nothing in front of Yi Xing. If Yi Xing started a massacre, they would all die. However, Yi Xing naturally wouldn't waste his energy on these supremacies. He immediately dispersed the burning blood technique. He had only used the burning blood technique once, so it didn't consume much of his divine dragon essence blood. Yi Xing swallowed an elixir and adjusted his breathing. He quickly left the island and headed toward the edge of the Sea of Abyss prison. The area he was in should be very far from the honorables of the Dark Star sect. Yi Xing would use the communication bead to contact the Dark Star sect's team every once in a while, but he could not reach them. For the rest of the journey, Yi Xing did not encounter any obstacles. News of him had definitely spread amongst the exalted lords of the Daryuan dynasty. However, even an expert like Meng Qi, who was ranked second on the exalted lord rankings, had died at Yi Xing's hands, so the others naturally didn't dare look for trouble with Yi Xing. That would be courting death. When he entered the Sea of Darkness prison, he'd been constantly searching for the green-haired dead spirit, so his journey was very slow. Now, when Yi Xing saw that he was unable to lure the green-haired dead spirit out, he directly flew towards the edge of the Sea of Darkness prison, and he merely used a little over a day to leave the Sea of Darkness prison. Yi Xing landed on the icy ground and heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He finally got out of this damned Sea of Black prison. After leaving the Sea of Black prison, the distance of the communication pearl was no longer affected, so Yi Xing immediately contacted the Black Puma King. According to the speed communication pearl, Yi Xing was more than 80,000 li away from the Black Puma King. In other words, after Yi Xing entered the Sea of Darkness prison and was chased by the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon for a period of time, then came out, he was more than 80,000 li away from where he entered the Sea of Darkness prison. On the other hand, the Dark Star sect's team did not search too far horizontally and focused on searching vertically, so they didn't stray too far from where they entered the Sea of Darkness prison. Yi Xing wasn't 80,000 li away from them, but at least 50 to 60,000 li. Of course, they wouldn't be able to contact him in the Sea of Darkness prison. "I'll be right there. I'll come to your aid." The two of them spoke at the same time after confirming the distance and direction. When the speed communication pearls were connected, they could sense the distance and direction of the other party. Yi Xing flew towards the Black Puma King, and the Black Puma King also flew towards Yi Xing. Not long after Yi Xing left, a person stepped through the void and stopped at the spot where Yi Xing had been standing. This person looked very young, about 20 years old, and was wearing a black dragon robe. It was the crown prince of the Great Yuan dynasty, Meng Yuansheng. In the Sea of Darkness prison, although the supremacies of the Great Yuan dynasty knew that Yi Xing wasn't far from them, they didn't dare find trouble with Yi Xing ever since Meng Qi had died. However, they still paid attention to Yi Xing's whereabouts and had already sent people to leave the Sea of Darkness prison as quickly as possible to report the news to the monarchs in the vicinity. Among the monarchs of the Great Yuan dynasty, the crown prince, Meng Yuansheng, was the closest to this area and had rushed over immediately after receiving the news. Monarchs were very sensitive to the universe, so they quickly discovered Yi Xing's departure trajectory and chased after Yi Xing. Yi Xing was rushing to meet up with the Black Puma King, while Meng Yuansheng was rushing with all his strength to chase after Yi Xing. The two exerted different amounts of strength, so naturally, Meng Yuansheng was faster. Yi Xing had only flown 1,000 li when he keenly sensed a powerful aura chasing after him. Yi Xing opened his martial Dao heavenly eye and superbrain to look behind him. Soon, he discovered Meng Tianxing's figure 100 li away. Meng Tianxing. As soon as Yi Xing saw Meng Tianxing, flames of anger burned in his eyes. His starfire seed was still with Meng Tianxing. If Yi Xing had the starfire seed, the corpse jade on him would be enough for him to cultivate to the 9th level of astral reaching realm. Unfortunately, I'm not his opponent now. Killing intent flickered in Yi Xing's eyes, but he hid it in his heart and continued flying towards the Black Puma King. The azure cloud wings flapped, and Yi Xing streaked across the sky like a beam of light, his speed suddenly exploding. Yi Xing used the wind momentum to the limit. Surging wind yuan qi gathered around his body as Yi Xing flew at full speed. His speed far surpassed astral-reaching realm reverend lords. Only kings could compete with him. This kid sped up. His speed is actually this fast? 100 li away, Meng Tianxing locked onto Yi Xing's aura and was astonished. Yi Xing's explosive speed was actually not inferior to his, a one-star king. This truly shocked Meng Tianxing. This king doesn't believe that I can't catch up to a puny 6-star venerable like you. Meng Tianxing coldly snorted and sped up. In any case, the astral wind of a king was extremely dense, so Meng Tianxing could maintain his extreme speed for a long time. Yi Xing was only a 6-star venerable. Regardless of strength or quantity, his astral wind couldn't be compared to a 1-star king. Meng Tianxing was very sure that Yi Xing wouldn't be able to maintain his extreme speed for too long. After chasing Yi Xing for 10,000 li, Meng Tianxing thought to himself, "You should be exhausted soon." Yi Xing's speed didn't slow down as Meng Tianxing had expected. He still maintained his extreme speed, tearing through the sky like a beam of light. Soon, he had covered another 10,000 li. Behind him, Meng Tianxing's heart started to tremble again. Yi Xing was only a 6-star venerable, yet he could maintain his extreme speed for 20,000 li. It was truly unbelievable. What was even more unbelievable to Meng Tianxing was that even after flying for more than 30,000 miles, he was still more than 100 miles away from Yi Xing. He had not closed the gap at all. Yi Xing, on the other hand, was still as fast as a beam of light. He seemed to be full of vigor and didn't show the slightest sign of slowing down. Chapter 706. I don't believe that you can. Meng Tianxing muttered to himself. Just as he was about to make up his mind to chase Yi Xing to death, he felt a terrifying aura coming from afar. To be able to make me feel danger, this person is at least a 2-star king, or even stronger. Unfortunately, father is quite far away. Meng Tianxing stopped his pursuit. He glared at Yi Xing before turning around and leaving. Ahead, Yi Xing and the Black Tiger King quickly met up. Seeing that Yi Xing was fine, the Black Tiger King finally relaxed and asked, "Who was the king that chased after you?" Yi Xing said, "Meng Tianxing." The Black Tiger King squinted his eyes and looked in the direction Meng Tianxing left. It's actually the great Meng Crown Prince. At least he escaped quickly. Meng Tai will be here soon. Let's retreat first. As soon as the Black Tiger King finished speaking, Yi Xing felt a dark aura enveloping him. It was the Black Tiger King using the Complete Darkness aura. The Complete Darkness aura covered their tracks. Even if the Supreme King Meng Tai came here, he wouldn't be able to find out where Yi Xing and the Black Tiger King left. In less than 2 hours, the Black Tiger King brought Yi Xing and the other kings of the Dark Star sect to gather. Yi Xing was the first to return. The rest of the High Lords were still in the Ocean of Darkness prison. I never thought that there would be a Dark Abyss Flood Dragon in the Ocean of Darkness prison. Moreover, it's a half-step beast king. I was chased by the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon and used all my strength to escape. However, I couldn't contact my teammates and could only choose to go to the edge of the Ocean of Darkness prison. At first, I was still able to lure out some green-furred monsters to kill. However, it seemed like all the green-furred monsters disappeared. I searched many places but couldn't lure out any more. Instead, I met the Great Yuan Dynasty's team. After a big battle with the Great Yuan Dynasty's High Lords, they were scared and didn't try to kill me again. I kept going out of the Ocean of Darkness prison before being chased by the Great Meng Crown Prince. Then, I met up with Brother Black Tiger and returned here together. Yi Xing recounted his experience in the Sea of Dark prison. However, he concealed the fact that he had injured the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon. This matter would involve the Burning Blood technique. Yi Xing's black hole astrology and dragonization were no longer unknown trump cards, but the Burning Blood technique was still there. He still had to reserve what he should. Yi Xing didn't even mention the Black Skull to the others. Once the free news spread, everyone who came out of the Sea of Black prison was suspected, causing panic. However, Yi Xing had already told the Black Leopard King about it on their way here. Only he and the Black Leopard King knew about it. As long as the King of Death Soul revealed a trace, they would find out who he was. If more people knew about it, the King of Death Spirit would pay more attention to it. If the King of Death Spirit wanted to hide it, it would be difficult to find him. Several days later, the sovereign lords of the Dark Star Church came out of the ocean of Black Hell. The 5th and 6th squads came out together, the 4th and 7th squads came out together, and the 3rd and 8th squads came out together. However, when the 2nd and 9th squads came out together, the Dark Star Church's martial practitioners were all shocked. Only Zhui Yupeng was left in the 2nd squad. None of the others came out. The other squads also lost members, but at most, they only lost 2 members. Some lost 1, and most of them didn't lose a single member. The 2nd squad was second only to the 1st squad in strength. However, other than Zhui Yupeng, they were all wiped out. This was truly shocking. Yi Xing and Black Biao King looked at each other and raised their eyebrows. Both of them were suspicious of Zhui Yupeng. In the Sea of Black Prison, there was a King of Death Soul's consciousness that was looking for someone to possess. Zhui Yupeng's team had suffered heavy losses. No matter how they looked at it, Zhui Yupeng was a major suspect. The two frowned slightly. If the King of Death Soul really possessed Zhui Yupeng, then it would be troublesome. If it was an ordinary High Lord, they would be directly arrested and put on trial. With Black Biao King's status, as long as he gave a sufficient reason, it would be easy for him to put a High Lord on trial. However, Zhui Yupeng was different. He was the Dark Star Church's young sect master, Zhui Xinglong's son. Could he also be arrested and put on trial? Zhui Xinglong couldn't put his son on trial just because he was suspicious. Therefore, just suspicion wasn't enough to put Zhui Yupeng on trial. There had to be evidence. Otherwise, if Zhui Yupeng insisted that he wasn't possessed, who would the Dark Star Church believe? Just because he suspected that his son was possessed by the King of Death Soul, he would execute his son? Or would he imprison his son for life? That's impossible. No father would treat his own son so lightly. Moreover, the Dark Star Church's sect master had high hopes for Zhui Yupeng. How could he destroy his son just because of a little suspicion? We have to focus on Zhui Yupeng and see if we can find evidence. Yi Xing and Black Biao King exchanged glances and understood each other's thoughts. Team 1 and Team 10 were the last to come out of the Sea of Darkness prison. Because Yi Xing was chased by the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon and his whereabouts were unknown, Team 1 and Team 10 had been searching for Yi Xing's whereabouts. In the process of searching for Yi Xing, they also used Wei Qingxian as bait to kill some green-furred undead spirits. Later, the green-furred undead spirits didn't come out. Wei Qingxian persisted in searching for Yi Xing for a period of time, but in the end, she left the Sea of Darkness prison without any results. Therefore, it was delayed until the end. Yi Xing. As soon as Team 1 came out, Wei Qingxian saw Yi Xing. She rushed over and looked at Yi Xing. "Are you okay?" Wei Qingxian had personally experienced how powerful the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon was. Moreover, the Dark Abyss Flood Dragon could control the water and move at lightning speed. It wasn't inferior to Yi Xing in the slightest. Wei Qingxian hadn't received any news about Yi Xing in the past 2 days, and her heart had been hanging in suspense. Now that she saw Yi Xing, she was finally relieved. Yi Xing spread out his hands and smiled. "Very good. My ability to escape is even stronger than my strength. That evil creature couldn't catch up to me. After chasing for a long distance, it didn't give up. However, I ran too far away and couldn't find a way back in the Sea of Darkness prison, so I left the Sea of Darkness prison through other landmarks. I was the first to come out." Wei Qingxian smiled. "I knew it. You wouldn't be taken advantage of so easily." After everyone had arrived, the Dark Star Sect Master collected 1/3 of the corpse jades as sect resources. Then he led everyone back to the Dark Star Sect. Although the green-furred undead spirits weren't completely exterminated, they were all hiding. There was nothing they could do about it. In the end, the Dark Star Sect Master left 3 kings in the northern nether region to prevent the green-furred monsters from coming out and wreaking havoc. Chapter 707. After returning to the Dark Star Sect, Zhui Yupeng's mission was given to the Black Biao King. The Black Biao King's mission to Yi Xing was to cultivate wholeheartedly and become a king as soon as possible. Even though Yi Xing had handed over 1/3 of the corpse jades to the Dark Star Sect, there were still a lot of corpse jades left. It was more than enough for Yi Xing to cultivate to the 9th star sovereign lord realm. The problem was that the corpse jades were filled with dense death qi. Every time Yi Xing absorbed a bit of energy from the corpse jades, he would need a long time to use his life force to slowly dissolve the death qi in his body. If it were spirit-grade corpse jades, a king would be able to refine the death qi within. But profound-grade corpse jades were something even a king could do nothing about. Yi Xing could only rely on his own life force to slowly dissolve the death qi. This was much slower than constantly absorbing corpse jades, but it was still much faster than cultivating normally. However, as a result, Yi Xing spent most of his time leisurely. During this time, Yi Xing cultivated his archery, martial arts, and comprehended the power of heaven and earth. Sometimes he would also go to the Dark Star sect's library to read. The library was an important place in the Dark Star sect. However, as the Fiend Star of the Chaotic Era, Yi Xing's status in the Dark Star sect also rose as his cultivation increased. He could enter and exit an important place like the library as he wished. Not only did the library have a large number of martial arts manuals, but there were even more cultivation notes left behind by the Dark Star sect's martial seniors. Yi Xing mainly read these notes. He absorbed the cultivation experiences of his predecessors to increase his own knowledge. Days like this quickly passed day after day. The days in the Star Continent were very peaceful. The green-furred undead spirit in the Sea of Black Prison didn't come out again. The Black Biao King kept an eye on Zhui Yupeng, but Zhui Yupeng was still the same as before. As for the others who came out of the Sea of Black Prison, they were also normal. Although the days were peaceful, Yi Xing's cultivation increased by leaps and bounds. Furthermore, he used his superbrain to scan the books, so his reading speed was very fast. In a few months, Yi Xing had read through all the books in the library. Half a year later, Yi Xing's attainments in archery made another breakthrough, reaching the 9 transformations of heart. The 9th layer of heart force was already his limit. Even though Zhang Xian had yet to achieve a breakthrough in his mastery of one with the bow, he had still managed to reach the pinnacle of the 2nd level. Yi Xing's cultivation base had also stabilized to peak level 6 astral reaching realm. As long as the death qi in his body was dissolved by the life force, he would be able to absorb the energy from the corpse jade again, allowing his cultivation base to break through to level 7 astral reaching realm and become irreverent. Not much time passed. 2 months later, on the 7th day of the 10th month, Yi Xing had broken through the 7th level of the astral reaching realm with the help of the profound grade 5 corpse jade, becoming a 7-star reverend. The 6th to 7th level of astral reaching realm was the breakthrough from mid-level to high-level astral reaching realm. Yi Xing's power had increased drastically. In addition to his attainments in archery, Yi Xing's strength was much stronger than when he had broken through to become a 6-star venerable in the Sea of Black Prison. Even if he didn't use the power of the divine dragon essence blood, it would be hard for him to find a worthy opponent under the king realm. After becoming a 7-star reverend, I should be able to escape from a king realm expert, right? Yi Xing thought to himself. Yi Xing's breakthrough to 7-star reverend caused his star power to surge. Black Biao King immediately rushed over. Wei Qingxian had broken through to the 7th level of astral reaching realm half a year ago, and Yi Xing had also become a 7-star reverend. The cultivation speed of these 2 monstrous geniuses was extremely fast. Black Biao King was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. Brother Black Biao, could you please find a king realm expert to test me? Let's see if I can escape from a king realm expert. Yi Xing said. All right, I'll find King Lan Qin. Black Biao King nodded and took out a communication pearl, immediately notifying King Lan Qin. In the mountains behind the left star emissary's mansion, Yi Xing was about 30 li away from the mansion, standing in the void. In front of him, 10 li away, King Lan Qin was also standing in the void. As for Black Biao King and Wei Qingxian, they were in the air above the mansion, opening their martial Dao heavenly eyes and watching Yi Xing and King Lan Qin. Black Biao King had given Yi Xing a mission, which was to return to the mansion under King Lan Qin's obstruction. If Yi Xing could break through King Lan Qin's blockade, then Yi Xing would be able to escape even if he encountered a king realm expert. If Yi Xing couldn't return, Then he would have to continue cultivating in the Dark Star sect. Only when he had the power to protect himself in front of a King Realm expert could he leave. King Lanqin looked at Yixing in front of her and sighed inwardly. In a few short years, she had personally witnessed the growth of Yixing and Wei Qingxian, these two monstrous geniuses. And now, Yixing had actually reached the point where he could face off against a one-star King Realm expert like her. King Lanqin, please make your move. Yixing shouted from afar. All right. King Lanqin collected her thoughts and shouted. A terrifying aura instantly erupted, suppressing the surroundings with her King Realm aura. King Lanqin made a grabbing motion with her hand. Instantly, the water yuan qi in the air gathered, forming a giant astral water hand that grabbed at Yixing. This astral water hand was more than 30 meters long, like a small mountain. It grabbed Yixing's head. To Yixing, it seemed to blot out the sun. 9 heavens godly wander art. Yixing's figure flickered as he dodged the astral water hand's attack. His force of wind had already reached the peak of the mid-level king realm of the union of heaven and man. Moreover, he had cultivated the mid-grade mystic-level technique of the 9 heavens astral wander to the perfection realm. His speed was shocking. The giant astral water hand missed, and Yixing's body drew an arc in the air like a ray of light. He wanted to go around King Lanqin and reach the left emissary's residence. At the same time, King Lanqin's figure moved like lightning. A mid-grade mystic weapon appeared in her hand, and she swung it. An azure water sword aura shot out in an instant. No matter how fast Yixing was, he couldn't outrun King Lanqin's attack. He leaped into the air and dodged again. Swish, swish, swish. The moment King Lanqin attacked, her moves flowed like water. She swung her sword again and again, her water sword aura slicing the void into pieces. Yixing couldn't dodge the astral water sword and returned to the left emissary's residence. He had a hard time dodging the astral water sword. Swish, swish, swish. Yixing used 3 celestial bodies at the same time. He drew the raven bow into a full moon. Swish. An arrow of starlight shot out. There were no transformations, only pure power. When the starlight arrow hit the water ripple sword aura, it shattered it into pieces. Swish, 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 swish. Yixing's figure flickered as he shot out arrow after arrow of starlight, counterattacking King Lanqin. King Lanqin's heart shook. Yixing's attack made her, a 1-star king realm, feel threatened. Swish. A beam of starlight shot out of King Lanqin's forehead. She had also used her celestial body, and it was a top-grade water-type one. After using her celestial body, King Lanqin's strength increased greatly. The astral water sword she swung out was even more terrifying. The arrows of starlight were destroyed by the astral water sword. Chapter 708. King Lanqin slashed out again and again. Sometimes the sword light was like waves, sometimes like ripples, and sometimes like flowing water. Every strike contained extremely powerful water yuan qi. It was on a completely different level from the attacks of sovereigns. Sovereigns used their own strength to draw in all kinds of yuan qi between heaven and earth. As for kings, they could not only draw in the yuan qi of heaven and earth, but also refine it for their own use. With the same move, sovereigns could only draw in a bit of the yuan qi. Kings could draw in the yuan qi of heaven and earth and also unleash the yuan qi within their bodies. Naturally, they were much stronger. With Yixing's current strength, he could defeat any half-step kings without dragon forming. However, he was in a difficult position before King Lanqin. He was not her match at all. Wherever the sword light passed, Yixing's starlight arrows, no matter how many transformations they contained, were all destroyed. Yixing could only retreat pathetically, not to mention reaching the left emissary's residence. If not for Yixing's movement technique being fast enough, King Lanqin would have already injured him. Kings are indeed extraordinary. With King Lanqin's strength, I'm afraid I won't be able to break through her blockade even if I transform into dragon form. I'll only have a chance if I use dragon race martial arts. Yixing thought to himself. However, I still have a powerful archery technique that I haven't used yet. Let's test the power of the Dark Wind Fire Arrow Incantation. Dark Wind Fire Arrow Incantation. Yixing had learned this archery technique from the Black Tortoise Jade Wall. As he had the trump card of transforming into a dragon, Yixing would always transform into a dragon whenever he encountered an enemy he couldn't deal with. He had never used this archery technique before. However, this archery technique contained the power of darkness, wind, and fire. It was definitely powerful. His attainments in archery had reached Heart's 9 transformations and the second level of One with the Bow. The 3 powers had also reached the mid-step king level of One with the World. It was enough for him to unleash the power of this archery technique. Yixing pulled open the black bow. The 3 powers of heaven and earth circulated, and the starlight arrow instantly contained 3 different kinds of yuan qi of heaven and earth. The 3 types of heaven and earth yuan qi gathered together due to the dark wind fire arrow art, causing the power of the starlight arrow to multiply. In addition to his attainments in the 9 transformations of the heart and the power of the second level of the One with the Bow, the power of the arrow of starlight had reached an extremely powerful level. Whoosh! The dark wind fire arrow shot out. The black arrow of starlight burned with flames as it constantly spun. With a sharp gust of wind, it shot toward King Lanqin with unstoppable force. Bang 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 bang, wherever the arrow light passed, the astral swords were destroyed. Queen Lanqin's heart shuddered as she became slightly shocked. The power of the arrow had actually made her slightly fearful. It was enough to threaten her life. All rivers returned to the sea. Empress Lanqin let out a soft cry and used her ultimate move. The treasured sword in her hand swung out countless times in an instant. Every sword light gathered together and turned into a sea of sword light, with the feeling of waves crashing. The dark wind fire arrow instantly shot into the sea of sword light and collided with countless sword lights. It pierced a fist-sized hole in the sea of sword light. After being blocked by all rivers returned to the sea, the dark wind fire arrow's power was greatly reduced. However, Queen Lanqin had used up a lot of energy to forcefully block it with her sword. She swung her sword back to block the dark wind fire arrow, but her body shook slightly and she couldn't help but take a step back. This arrow had forced a king to retreat. Just as Queen Lanqin's sword clashed with the dark wind fire arrow, Yixing had already used the 9 heavens astral wonder art. He rapidly moved in an arc, circling around Queen Lanqin and heading for the left emissary's residence. Queen Lanqin wanted to block with her sword, but the dark wind fire arrow forced her back a step, slowing her attack by half a beat. By the time she drew her sword, Yixing had already flashed past her body. Whoosh! Yixing shot out another arrow. This time, it wasn't the dark wind fire arrow, but a normal starlight arrow. After blocking Queen Lanqin's attack for a moment, Yixing didn't slow down at all as he rushed for the residence. Finally, Yixing arrived safely in the air above the residence, unharmed. The Lanqin Emperor arrived right behind him. She stared at Yixing in surprise and said, "That arrow just now was really powerful. If you use 2 of those archery moves in a row, I might not be able to stop you. I might even be injured and defeated." Yixing said, "That arrow used up too much energy. I can't use it continuously. However, I still have dragon form as a trump card. If I were to meet a king of the Deyuan dynasty in the wilderness, I might not lose in a direct battle." Queen Lanqin nodded. Although she hadn't seen Yixing's dragon form with her own eyes, she had heard that Yixing had beaten up Zhuo Yupeng at the Cultivation St. Pond. It was because Yixing had used dragon form that he had defeated Zhuo Yupeng. Yixing looked at Black Tiger King and said excitedly, "Now, I can go out." Black Tiger King was full of smiles. Yixing's growth was getting closer and closer to his expectations. He was already a king now. When Yixing became a king, Black Tiger King estimated that Yixing's strength wouldn't be inferior to his own. At that time, the Dark Star sect would have 2 mid-step kings, and they would be able to fight the Deyuan dynasty head-on. If Yixing became a 2-star or 3-star king, then overthrowing the Deyuan dynasty would only be a matter of time. Black Tiger King nodded. "Alright, but be careful. Keep in touch and let me know your location. If you're in danger, I'll immediately rush over to save you." I'll go to the Dark Star Pagoda and consolidate my Dark Star Xian body. After that, I'll go out and explore. Yi Xing looked at Wei Qingxian and said, Qingxian, do you want to travel the world together? Wei Qingxian thought for a while and said, I'll break through to 8th star Venerable Lord in at most a month. I'll cultivate in peace during this time. After I become an 8th star Venerable Lord, I'll come find you. The two looked at each other and smiled. Yi Xing said, All right, I'll wait for you. The next day, Yi Xing headed to the Dark Star Pagoda and cultivated, consolidating his Dark Star Xian body to the limit of small success. After exiting the Dark Star Pagoda, Yi Xing headed to the teleportation hall, preparing to leave. Yi Xing already knew the location of the Dark Star sect. It was located on an island in the sea east of the East Divine Continent. There were countless islands in the sea, and this was also the reason why the Deyuan dynasty had never been able to find the Dark Star sect's location. The outer layer of the island had been completely sealed by the sect's ancestors. It couldn't be seen from the outside, and no one could enter or leave. To leave the Dark Star sect, one had to go through the teleportation hall. Yi Xing. Before Yi Xing could enter the teleportation hall, he was stopped outside. Yi Xing looked at Zhui Yupeng with surprise in his eyes. After returning from the Sea of Dark Prison, Yi Xing and Black Tiger King had always thought that Zhui Yupeng was the most likely person to be possessed by the Death Spirit King. However, Zhui Yupeng didn't reveal any flaws. Everything was the same as before. Chapter 709. Yi Xing did not expect that Zhui Yupeng would take the initiative to find him. What's the matter? Yi Xing looked at Zhui Yupeng indifferently. Zhui Yupeng looked at Yi Xing with a fierce look in his eyes. Let's settle the score between us. Do you think I'll let go of what happened in the Cultivation Sacred Pool? Yi Xing chuckled. Are you looking for a beating? Although Yida's expression was calm, he was carefully analyzing Zhui Yupeng's words to see if there were any flaws in his words. Unfortunately, Yi Xing did not feel that Zhui Yupeng was any different from before. Zhui Yupeng snorted, Yi Xing, do you really think no one can defeat you? I'm now a 9th star Venerable Lord, and my strength is incomparable to before. I can suppress you in a matter of minutes. I waited for you to break through to the 7th star Venerable Lord realm before fighting you to let you know that I won't take advantage of you. In the Cultivation Sacred Pool, Yi Xing was a 5th star Venerable while Zhui Yupeng was a 7th star Venerable Lord. Now, Yi Xing was a 7th star Venerable Lord while Zhui Yupeng was a 9th star Venerable Lord. The difference in cultivation between the two was still 2 realms. Won't take advantage of me? Yi Xing chuckled. If you really won't take advantage of me, it won't be too late to fight me when our cultivation reaches the same realm. Zhui Yupeng was stunned, then he said angrily, Aren't you known as the Fiend Star of Troubled Times? If we fight at the same realm, you won't be the Fiend Star of Troubled Times. Cut the crap, do you dare accept my challenge? Yi Xing narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhui Yupeng for a while. Who says I don't dare? If you're looking for trouble, I'll fulfill your wish. Yi Xing did not feel that there was anything wrong with Zhui Yupeng's words. He wanted to see if Zhui Yupeng was different from before. The two soon arrived at a wasteland. One was the Fiend Star of Troubled Times, and the other was the young hierarch. The two of them were about to fight. When the nearby warriors saw this, they were naturally excited and stood in the distance to watch. Before he even made a move, Yi Xing's body was already in dragon form. At the same time, he used the black hole astral form and the fire astral form. Zhui Yupeng also used the thunder and lightning astral aspect. Dazzling lightning flashed. The two of them had fought before, so they did not use any probing attacks. The moment they made their move, they brought out their peak strength. With the treasured spear in his hand, Zhui Yupeng's aura soared. He shouted, Lose for me. A spear thrust out, accompanied by a purple lightning. The higher Yi Xing's cultivation was, the stronger his dragon form would be. Now that he was a 7-star High Lord, he was no weaker than a 1-star king after dragon form. He threw a punch at Zhui Yupeng's spear. Boom! The tip of the spear collided with the golden dragon fist, causing sparks to fly. Yi Xing did not even take half a step back, but Zhui Yupeng's body shook and retreated a dozen steps. Although Zhui Yupeng's strength was strong, in Yi Xing's eyes, he was not much different from the Dark Abyss flood dragon he had met in the ocean of Dark Prison. At most, he was at the limit of half-step king. He was still a little bit away from a true king. On the other hand, Yi Xing's dragon form was a strength that could contend against a one-star king. Zhui Yupeng naturally could not block it. Yi Xing took a large step forward and punched out with his golden dragon fist, attacking Zhui Yupeng repeatedly. Dang 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 dang. Every time the purple lightning mystic spear and dragon fist collided, a crisp sound would erupt, causing Zhui Yupeng to retreat again and again. Extreme purple flash. Zhui Yupeng retreated several li with a furious expression. He roared and used the ultimate move he had comprehended. With a flash of purple lightning and a thunderous boom, the terrifying spear technique had already arrived in front of Yi Xing. Yi Xing sneered. With a flash of golden light, his body retreated explosively and his dragon claw slapped out. He did not collide with the opponent's attack head-on, but instead deflected it. However, Zhui Yupeng's spear was extremely fast and powerful, so it was not so easy to deflect it. It continued to stab toward Yi Xing's chest. Yi Xing dodged the spear's sharpest moment and punched out with his other hand. Bang! With a loud explosion, the purple lightning mystic spear was bent by Yi Xing's punch. The purple lightning mystic spear was bent straight and fiercely flicked, causing Zhui Yupeng's body to shoot backward. Boom! With a flash of golden light, Yi Xing's figure rushed forward and instantly caught up, punching Zhui Yupeng's chest. Zhui Yupeng was hit and immediately vomited blood as he was sent flying 1,000 meters away. In the distance, the spectating martial artists all sucked in a breath of cold air. The dragon scales on Yi Xing's body disappeared and he returned to his human form. He retracted his fist with a look of surprise on his face. When he sent Zhui Yupeng flying with his fist, he felt a suction force suddenly appear in Zhui Yupeng's body, sucking away some of his strength. Although the process was brief, Yi Xing was still keenly aware of it. If there was a difference between this and Zhui Yupeng, then this did not happen the last time Yi Xing fought with Zhui Yupeng. This is strange. It can be considered an anomaly on Zhui Yupeng's part. However, only I know of this. Even if I tell others, no one will believe me. Yi Xing thought to himself. He took out a speed communication bead and reported this matter to the Black Puma King. I understand. I will increase the surveillance on him. If he wants to fight with you at this time, he probably has some ulterior motive. Do you want to stay here for a while? The Black Puma King sent a message. It's fine. I will pay attention, Yi Xing replied. If Zhui Yupeng had really been possessed by the Death Spirit King, then it would be impossible to expose him in a short period of time. How could Yi Xing keep waiting? Under the gazes of numerous martial artists, Yi Xing arrived at the teleportation hall. Through the teleportation array, he left the Dark Star sect and arrived at a certain place in the East Divine Continent. Yi Xing first changed his clothes. His old clothes were burned to ashes with origin chi flames. Then he found a lake to take a bath. He cleaned his body with origin chi flames to prevent Zhui Yupeng from leaving any marks on his body during the battle. After doing all this, Yi Xing used the momentum of darkness to cover his tracks and flew towards the Azure Cloud Mountain Range. Yi Xing's first stop was the Azure Cloud Mountain Range, the Dark Canyon. The Black Biao King had comprehended the momentum of darkness to perfection in the Dark Canyon. Yi Xing's momentum of darkness was only a step away from perfection. He wanted to complete this last step in the Dark Canyon. Only by comprehending the momentum of heaven and earth to perfection would one have a chance of comprehending the true meaning of Tao. The earlier one reached perfection, the greater the chance of comprehending the true meaning of Tao. Yi Xing arrived at the Dark Canyon. He entered the canyon and sat down cross-legged. He sensed the aura of darkness around him and comprehended the momentum of darkness. The aura of darkness enveloped Yi Xing. Even if someone came to the Dark Canyon, they wouldn't be able to see or sense his existence. At the same time, in the Dark Star sect, Zhui Yupeng had a faintly discernible mass of black energy in his hand. He had a cold smile on his face. Yi Xing, oh Yi Xing, you must have thought that I left some mark on your body. After leaving the Dark Star sect, you would burn your clothes and wash your entire body. But that's useless. I've absorbed a little of the death energy in your body. Through this little bit of death energy, I can sense the location of the death energy in your body. How could this king not know where you are? Chapter 710. Azure Cloud Mountain Range, Dark Canyon. Yixing calmed his mind and tried to comprehend the darkness momentum. His sense of touch extended, and it was extremely mysterious. Suddenly, Yixing's mind jolted and he opened his eyes. He had sensed several powerful auras. To be able to make him feel powerful, these auras were at least Astral Sea Realm kings. How could there be kings in the Azure Cloud Mountain Range? Moreover, there were several of them. It was truly strange. Yixing instantly thought of himself. Could it be that they're here for me? How do they know my location? In this dark canyon, even if there were kings nearby, as long as they didn't open their martial Dao heavenly eye, they wouldn't be able to discover Yixing's existence. It would be hard to explain why these kings had come for him, unless they knew his location. After a few breaths of time, Yixing was sure that these kings had indeed come for him. This was because these kings' auras were getting clearer and clearer. They should be heading straight for Yixing's location. Apart from Brother Black Tiger, no one knows my location. Why are these kings coming for me? Could it be that Zhui Yupeng really did something to my body and I didn't wash it off? Yixing was puzzled. He immediately covered his body with the darkness aura and flew away from the dark canyon. He flew in a different direction, increasing the distance between him and the king's auras. However, Yixing discovered that the king's auras were getting closer and closer. They didn't go to the dark canyon at all. Instead, they changed directions and headed straight for Yixing. At this moment, Yixing was extremely sure that these kings had not only come for him, but they could also pinpoint his location. Even the darkness aura couldn't hide his whereabouts. Yixing immediately crushed a warning talisman. When the warning talisman was crushed, a warning formation that the Black Biao King carried with him would shatter as well. This meant that Yixing was in danger. The Black Biao King would know Yixing's location through the speed communication pearl, and would use the teleportation formation of the Dark Star sect to quickly reach where Yixing was. In the Dark Star sect, the Black Biao King had been secretly monitoring Zhui Yupeng. However, when Zhui Yupeng returned to the Zhua family manor, he entered an underground secret room and disappeared from the Black Biao King's senses. It was as if Zhui Yupeng knew that the Black Biao King was monitoring him, so he intentionally shook him off. Back then, the Black Biao King had his suspicions. He felt that there must be a reason why Zhui Yupeng had fought Yixing before he left the Dark Star sect. After Yixing left the Dark Star sect, he might be in danger. Therefore, he had been paying attention to the warning formation on his body. Sure enough, as the Black Biao King expected, after a short period of over an hour, the Black Biao King received Yixing's request for help. The Black Biao King immediately sent a voice transmission to the Dark Star Sect's Master and the Sovereign Sect's Master, and then he rushed to the teleportation hall at the first possible moment. He used the speed communication pearl to confirm Yixing's location, and then used the teleportation formation to teleport towards the Ascension Mountain Range. However, because it wasn't a fixed point teleportation between teleportation formations, one-way teleportation would cause distance to occur. After teleporting, one wouldn't appear at a fixed location and would appear in an area instead. So, the Black Biao King couldn't teleport directly to Yixing's side. The Black Biao King appeared in the Ascension Mountain Range, and it was over 10,000 kilometers away from Yixing. At such a close distance, the speed communication pearl could already communicate directly. "How are you?" The Black Biao King sent a message to Yixing. As soon as the Black Biao King arrived at the Ascension Mountain Range, he sensed the auras of a few other kings, and one of them was especially familiar. It was the Deyuan Supreme King, Meng Tai. It's the Deyuan dynasty. I don't know how they know my location, but it should be Zhui Yupeng's doing. They have a high-grade profound grade flying ship, and they're only a few hundred kilometers away from me. They're about to catch up to me. Yixing's voice sounded out from the Black Biao King's speed communication pearl. Only a few hundred kilometers away? The Black Biao King's eyes instantly turned red with anxiety. He ignited his astral energy and broke through the limits of his speed as he flew over. Over 5,000 kilometers away, Yixing similarly broke through the limits of his speed as he flew at extreme speeds. However, the flying ship behind him was truly too fast. It was a high-grade profound-grade flying ship that was driven by high-grade star crystals and controlled by a king. It could be considered as the fastest speed on the star continent, and it was even faster than Yixing flying at full speed. With every blink of an eye, the distance between the two parties would close by dozens of kilometers. The distance of a few hundred kilometers would not last for more than 10 blinks of an eye. The Black Biao King was still 5,000 kilometers away, and there was no way he could catch up. On the flying ship, there were a total of 5 kings, including the damning Supreme King. If they caught up, Yixing would not have the strength to resist at all. This could be said to be the most dangerous moment since Yixing had returned to the Star Continent. There was no way he could escape, and there was no way he could defeat them. This was a situation of certain death. Unless, a thought flashed through Yixing's mind as he thought of the Great Space Breaching Talisman he had obtained in the Stellar Hall. Only the Great Space Breaching Talisman could save his life. However, once the Great Space Breaching Talisman was used, it would tear apart the space around the Star Continent and reach another star continent. Once he reached another star continent, it would be almost impossible for him to return to the Star Continent. Yixing still had many things to do in the Star Continent, and he was unwilling to leave just like that. After a few breaths, the high mystic class flying ship behind them was even closer to Yixing. Yixing could already see the kings on the flying ship clearly. Other than the Supreme King Meng Tai, there was also the 2-star King Meng Tong and the Dayuan Crown Prince Meng Yuanxing. The other two were the 2-star King and the 3-star King respectively. Seems like I'm really at my wit's end. Apart from using the Great Space Breaching Talisman, there's no other way. But I'm definitely not willing to leave the Star Continent just like that. The Dayuan dynasty has to pay the price. I want to take back what belongs to me. Yixing's eyes were burning with flames of anger. He stopped running. He turned around and stood proudly in the void, looking at the flying ship that was approaching him rapidly. Cowards of the Dayuan dynasty, do you still have the guts to make a bet with me? Yixing shouted at the 5 kings on the flying ship. The flying ship stopped in the sky in front of Yixing. The 5 kings were excited, but there was also a hint of anger in their eyes. The Dayuan dynasty's demon star was right in front of them, and they could exterminate him at any time. Of course, the 5 kings were excited. However, Yixing, a mere 7-star supremacy, had dared to shout at the 5 kings and call them cowards. Of course, they were furious when they heard this. The Supreme King, Meng Tai, stood at the bow of the ship and looked down at Yixing. Yixing, you are about to die, yet you still dare to be so stubborn. I know that He Biao is rushing here. I can kill you before he arrives, but I won't. I want him to watch you die as soon as he arrives. I want him to feel the pain of having his hopes shattered before his eyes. Chapter 7:13. Yixing. Sorrow surged onto the Black Tiger King's face, and he was unable to speak about Yixing's death. When all the other kings saw the Black Tiger King's expression, they instantly understood that Yixing had probably been killed by the Supreme King, Meng Tai, and they revealed shocked expressions. The Black Tiger King quickly restrained his expression, and his gaze was like a bolt of lightning as he looked at the Dark Star Sect's master and shouted, "Where's Shui Yupeng?" The Dark Star Sect's master was stunned. Even though the Black Tiger King's strength had surpassed him since a long time ago, the Black Tiger King had never spoken to him in such a tone. When the Black Tiger King saw that the Dark Star Sect's master didn't answer him, he asked with a grim voice, "Where's Shui Yupeng?" The Dark Star Sect's master looked vigilantly at the Black Tiger King and said, "Why are you looking for Yupeng?" The Sovereign Sect's master, King Xiao Mu, walked forward and said, "Black Tiger, what happened? Speak properly." The Black Tiger King said, "Shui Yupeng is the true culprit behind Yixing's death. It was he who exposed Yixing's location to the Dayuan dynasty." The Dark Star Sect's master was surprised, and he said loudly, "That's impossible. Even though Yupeng didn't get along well with Yixing, it's absolutely impossible for him to collude with the Dayuan dynasty." The Black Tiger King said, "Senior brother, I'm afraid the current Shui Yupeng isn't your son anymore." The expressions of everyone transformed into astonishment. The Black Tiger King's words caused them to be extremely shocked. If Shui Yupeng wasn't the Shui Yupeng of the past, then what was he? The Dark Star sect's master thought extremely highly of Shui Yupeng, and he was furious when he heard this. He said, "Junior brother, I know it's very difficult for you to get angry because of Yi Xing's death, but what nonsense are you speaking?" King Xiaomu said, "Black Tiger, what do you mean by that? Yupeng is Stardragon's only son." By now, the Black Biao King was sure that Shui Yupeng was the one who had been possessed by the Death Spirit King. Yi Xing once encountered the spirit body of the King of Death Soul in the Sea of Dark Prison. Since the King of Death Soul failed to possess Yi Xing, he would definitely choose to possess someone else. Shui Yupeng's team was completely annihilated, and Shui Yupeng's natural talent far surpassed the others, making him an extremely good target for possession. After returning from the Sea of Dark Prison, Yi Xing and I suspected that Shui Yupeng had already been possessed by the King of Death Soul. The sect leader of the Dark Star sect became agitated and shouted, "Impossible! How could my son be possessed? That's impossible!" The kings all looked at the Black Biao King with strange expressions. Being possessed meant that he was dead, and his body had been taken over by his enemy. Shui Yupeng was the young sect leader of the Dark Star sect. Who would believe that Shui Yupeng had been possessed? The Black Biao King said, "Yi Xing knew that you wouldn't believe this, so he only told me about it. Ever since he returned to the Dark Star sect in the Sea of Dark Prison, I've been paying attention to Shui Yupeng, and he didn't reveal any flaws. Until this time, when Yi Xing left the Dark Star sect, Shui Yupeng took the initiative to challenge Yi Xing, and the two fought. He knew that his strength was not as good as Yi Xing's, and he would definitely lose if he fought Yi Xing. Yet he still wanted to fight Yi Xing. He must have done something to Yi Xing's body during the battle, and that's how he knew about Yi Xing's whereabouts. Otherwise, how could the Great Yuan dynasty's people know about Yi Xing's specific location? Although the Black Biao King's words were suspicious of Shui Yupeng, the sect leader of the Dark Star sect didn't believe that his son had been possessed. The sect leader of the Dark Star sect said, "That's only your suspicion. You don't have any proof. It's impossible for Yupeng to have been possessed." The Black Biao King said, "Senior brother, do you know that if Shui Yupeng has been possessed, then the current Shui Yupeng is no longer your son, but the enemy who killed your son? Whether or not he has been possessed, let him come out and face us. This time, I must make him reveal his true self." King Xiaomu said, "The Black Biao King's words aren't without reason. Star Dragon, let Yupeng come out and face everyone. If he hasn't been possessed, he's still the young sect leader. If he really has been possessed, can you tolerate the enemy who possessed your son's body?" King Xiaomu was an elder of the Zhou clan and the previous sect leader. His words naturally carried more weight than the Black Biao King's, and the sect leader of the Dark Star sect would listen to him. After hesitating for a moment, the sect leader of the Dark Star sect took out the speed communication pearl. Just like how Yi Xing and the Black Biao King's speed communication pearl were connected, and the Black Biao King could determine Yi Xing's location from thousands of miles away, the sect leader of the Dark Star sect and his son, Shui Yupeng, could do the same. In the next moment, the sect leader of the Dark Star sect's expression changed. Shui Yupeng's speed communication pearl had actually been cut off from his own. He couldn't sense Shui Yupeng's location at all. The sect leader of the Dark Star sect said, He should have sealed the speed communication pearl. I can't contact him." All the king's expressions changed. Why would the speed communication pearl be sealed for no reason? This was a big point of suspicion. Just now, they didn't really believe that Shui Yupeng had been possessed, but now, they had a lot of doubts in their hearts. The sect leader of the Dark Star sect said, "He's still in the sect. Let's go back. We'll be able to find him once we go back." The Black Biao King waved his hand and said, "He harmed Yi Xing. He knows that he can no longer hide his identity, so he must have already escaped. If he tells the Dark Star sect's location to the Great Yuan dynasty, the Dark Star sect will be in danger." Although the Dark Star sect's headquarters was covered in layers of formations, and even 4-star kings would lose their lives if they barged in, They only had about 2,000 years of accumulation. On the other hand, the Great Yuan dynasty had tens of thousands of years of accumulation. In terms of accumulation, the Great Yuan dynasty was much more profound. If they knew the location of the Dark Star sect's headquarters, the Great Yuan dynasty might be able to take down the Dark Star sect with some of their resources. At this moment, it was no longer a matter of whether Zhui Yupeng had been possessed or not, but the Dark Star sect's foundation. The severity of the matter was more than 10 times greater. All the king's expressions changed. Xiao Mu King said, "Return." When the kings returned to the Dark Star sect, Zhui Yupeng's figure was nowhere to be seen. Moreover, in the secret underground room of Zhui Yupeng's residence, 2 human skin skeletons were found. One was the Zhou family's half-step king, and the other was the 5-star venerable Shimenju. It seemed like the two had not been sucked dry for long. Zhui Yupeng had been possessed by the Death Soul King. There was no doubt that this was an irrefutable fact. The Dark Star sect immediately sealed off the entire island and conducted a comprehensive search. However, there was no sign of Zhui Yupeng. He had already left the Dark Star sect. Zhui Yupeng's possession was a huge threat to the safety of the Dark Star sect. The Dark Star sect was filled with worry. However, after the Black Tiger King returned to the Dark Star sect, his mood became better. Yi Xing and I left a trace of mental energy in each other's bodies. We can sense each other's life and death. I am sure that Yi Xing is not dead, but I can't sense his location. This is really strange. Could it be that he is no longer in the space of the Star Continent? From Wei Qingxian, the Black Tiger King knew that Yi Xing was not dead. The anger in his heart that had nowhere to vent was finally extinguished. The Black Tiger King believed that Yi Xing, as the demon star of the Great Yuan dynasty, would return one day as long as he was not dead. Chapter 714. When the space-breaching talisman shattered the space, Yi Xing was hit by the Supreme King Meng Tai's saber aura. The saber aura entered his body and he was severely injured. Soon he fell unconscious. After being unconscious for a long time, Yi Xing slowly woke up. Yi Xing found himself lying on a hard wooden bed. When he moved his body slightly, a sharp pain came from his back and right shoulder, making it difficult for Yi Xing to move. He was injured, seriously injured. Yi Xing even felt that he could not circulate the astral energy in his body. His internal organs and meridians were all damaged to varying degrees. Yi Xing instantly thought of the Supreme King Meng Tai's saber. Fortunately, he had activated the Great Space-Breaching Talisman in time. If he had been a split second slower, this saber would have sliced his body into 2 and killed him instantly. Now, Yi Xing had returned to his human form. The divine dragon blood essence in his body had been burned. He could no longer transform into a dragon. His body was very weak and he felt powerless. Even raising his hand was difficult. This was definitely the most serious injury he had ever suffered in his life. If it wasn't for the fact that his Dark Star Xian body had reached the limit of small success and his vitality was extremely strong, almost comparable to that of a king, this injury would have been fatal. The vitality in his body would have slowly been destroyed, and he would have died in the end. However, Yi Xing's vitality was now stronger than the injuries he had suffered. As time passed, his vitality would become stronger and his body would gradually recover. It was just that it would take a long time. Although my injury is serious, it is not important. As long as I have time, I will completely recover. Moreover, I have the Starfire Seed and can refine the death aura in the corpse jade. This will allow my cultivation to break through and become an 8-star supremacy or even a 9-star supremacy. The important thing is which star continent I am in and whether I can return to the star continent. There are too many things I care about there. Yi Xing thought to himself. He turned his head slightly and looked around the room. It was a very simple room. In addition to the wooden bed, there was a small wooden cabinet, a wooden table, and a wooden chair. I can't fall on someone's bed after breaking through the void. It seems that someone saved me. When he comes, I will ask him where I am. As Yi Xing was thinking, footsteps came from outside the room. After a few breaths, the door opened with a creak. A gray-robed elder with a snow-white beard walked in. "Oh, young master, you are awake?" The gray-robed elder entered the room and smiled when he saw Yixing. "Uncle, thank you for saving my life. How many days have I been unconscious?" Yixing knew that he must have been unconscious for a long time. Young master," the gray-robed elder. "Young master, you have been unconscious for a long time. It has been 5 days since my young master saved you from the back mountain. As for how long you have been unconscious, I don't know." Yixing was surprised that he had been unconscious for such a long time. It seemed that he was seriously injured this time. Yixing looked at the gray-robed elder carefully. Although he was seriously injured, his eyesight was still there. He could see that the gray-robed elder was a 9-star supremacy. A 9-star supremacy was just a servant. Then he must be from a big family. However, the decor of this room was too plain. It looked like a farmhouse, not a room of a large family. Yixing said, "Thank you for saving my life. Is your young master not here?" The gray-robed elder came to the bedside and said, "Young master is seriously injured. My young master went to buy medicine for you." Yixing smiled in his heart. His injuries could not be cured by ordinary medicinal herbs. The reason he could wake up was all because of his own recovery ability. If he wanted to heal his injuries quickly, he would probably need a level 5 medicinal pill. Yixing asked, "Uncle, how should I address your young master? Where is this place?" "This is the Gu family. My young master is..." The gray-robed elder hesitated and said, "My young master is the Gu family's young master, Gu Qingchen." Gu family, Gu Qingchen. Yixing remembered the name of the person who saved him. However, he wanted to know more than that. Yixing continued asking, "Uncle, I mean, where is this area?" The gray-robed elder looked at Yixing in confusion and said, "Young master, you were injured in the back mountain of the Gu family. Don't you know the Gu family of Evergreen City?" Yixing smiled awkwardly and said, "I really don't know. When I was injured, I was teleported by a force and then fell unconscious. I have never heard of the Evergreen City." The gray-robed elder said, "I see. Although the Gu family is a big family in Evergreen City, it is nothing in the entire Yuezhou. Young master, do you know the star-plucking palace in Yuezhou?" Yixing shook his head, "I don't know." The gray-robed elder was surprised and said, "You don't even know the star-plucking palace? Are you not from the Star Elephant Dynasty?" Star Elephant Dynasty? Yixing's heart skipped a beat. He knew that there was a Star Elephant Palace in the Starry Crescent Land. Was this a coincidence? Or was he in the Starry Crescent Land? Yixing shook his head and said, "I know of the Star Elephant Dynasty, but I have never heard of the Star-Plucking Palace. I am from the Dark Moon Palace." The Dark Moon Palace was one of the 7 superpowers in the Starry Crescent Land. Moreover, the Dark Moon Palace had a good relationship with the Star Elephant Palace. Therefore, Yixing said that he was from the Dark Moon Palace. As for the Big Dipper Sword sect, Yixing did not mention it. In the Starry Crescent Land, the disciples of the Star Elephant Palace and the Dark Moon Palace had been hunting down the disciples of the Big Dipper Sword sect. If this was the Starry Crescent Land, the territory of the Star Elephant Palace, then wouldn't Yixing be looking for trouble by saying that he was related to the Big Dipper Sword sect? When the gray-robed elder heard the words Dark Moon Palace, his eyes were filled with respect and he said, "Young master, so you are a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace. My apologies. No wonder you have never heard of the Star-Plucking Palace. Compared to the Dark Moon Palace, the Star-Plucking Palace is not worth mentioning. There really is a Dark Moon Palace." Yixing's heart suddenly lit up. There could not be so many coincidences. This must be the Starry Crescent Land. The Starry Crescent Land, I can't believe that I am here. Although I can't go back to the Starry Crescent Land, one day, Xianxia will become the strongest cultivator in the Starry Crescent Land. I will wait for her here. One day, we will meet again. Yixing thought to himself. His mood was inexplicably better. It's a pity that I have to come to the Starry Crescent Land before I can destroy the Deyuan dynasty. I am a demon star in a chaotic time. Brother He Biao has been so kind to me, but I can't help him at all. I am so sorry. Yixing sighed. If he could go back to the Starry Crescent Land, he would definitely try his best to do so. However, he had never heard of anyone going back to the Starry Crescent Land. There was no road. How could one go back? Chapter 716. Gu Qingchen was obviously not lying. Although he said no, his expression and actions told others the truth. The gray-robed elder, Gu Jinyang, strode to Gu Qingchen and took out the hand that Gu Qingchen had hidden behind his back. There were large bruises on the back of the hand and the forearm. Some parts were even greenish and purplish. It was obvious that he had been hit with great force. They bullied you again? Gu Jinyang was furious and his tone was agitated. Gu Qingchen nodded silently. Bastards. A bunch of ungrateful bastards. Gu Jinyang cursed angrily. His body was shaking. Grandpa Jinyang, it's all my fault for not being able to break through to the Star Vortex realm and bringing shame to the family. Don't be angry. I'll work hard and break through to the Star Vortex realm before I turn 16. When I become the family head, no one will dare to bully me. Gu Qingchen blamed himself when he saw that Gu Jinyang was trembling with anger. Yixing rolled his eyes. This child was really naive. Gu Jinyang grabbed Gu Qingchen's shoulder and shouted, "Who said you brought shame to the family? Listen, you didn't bring shame to the family. You're the son of Gu Teng. Only the family owes you. You don't owe the family anything." Gu Qingchen nodded slightly. Oh. Although it was a reply, there was confusion in his eyes. He missed the days when his parents were still in the family. Since his parents disappeared, everything had changed. The Gu family was no longer the Gu family in his heart. Other than Gu Jinyang, who had always treated him well, everyone else had been polite to him in the first 2 years. Later, when the news of his parents' death spread, his status in the Gu family plummeted, and he slowly became an existence that anyone could bully. Although he was naive, he was not ignorant. He understood some things in his heart, but he was powerless to change them. Even so, Gu Qingchen did not blame the heavens. Instead, he blamed himself. He did not understand why he was stuck at the 9th level of the celestial vortex realm, unable to condense a celestial vortex in his dantian, when other people had stepped into the celestial vortex realm at the age of 15 or 16. The star-tempering realm was only the foundation of martial arts. The star vortex realm was the real beginning of martial arts. If he could not even enter the star vortex realm, how could he be worthy of respect? I must step into the star vortex realm, I must. Gu Qingchen shouted in his heart. Seeing Gu Qingchen's appearance, Gu Jinyang sighed. Although he was Venerable 9-star, he couldn't interfere in the disputes between Gu Qingchen and the younger generation of the Gu clan. Gu Jinyang was very clear that if he interfered, he would definitely attract even more powerful forces. It would be impossible for him to stay by Gu Qingchen's side. Gu Songbei could spare Gu Qingchen's life, but he would definitely not care about Gu Jinyang's life. Thus, Gu Jinyang could only silently stay by Gu Qingchen's side and take care of his daily life. He would guide him in his cultivation, and when Gu Qingchen went out to train, he would protect him. However, in the Gu clan, Gu Jinyang could not interfere in anything. Gu Jinyang asked, "Who hit you this time?" He narrowed his eyes, hiding a trace of murderous intent. Although he could not interfere, he had to remember who had hurt Gu Qingchen. What if one day, something happened to Gu Qingchen and he was completely abandoned by Gu Songbei? Then, even if he had to risk his life, Gu Jinyang would pay back this debt, and pay back double. Gu Qingchen said softly, "It was Qingshan who ordered his subordinates to hit me. Qingshan asked them to hit my face, but I used my hands to block them, so my face was not injured. Grandpa Jinyang, this is a small injury. It will be fine soon after applying some medicine. I will go and boil some medicine for Big Brother first." Talking about this in front of Yixing, an outsider, clearly put Gu Qingchen in a difficult position. He was too embarrassed to stay in the room, so he left immediately after speaking. Gu Jinyang took a deep breath and restrained his expression. He looked at Yixing and said, "I've made a fool of myself in front of young Master Yi." Yixing did not laugh. Instead, he said seriously, This child is very talented. He did not break through to the celestial vortex realm because someone did something to his dantian. If the problem is not solved, he will not be able to break through to the celestial vortex realm even if he cultivates for the rest of his life. Yi Xing had also checked Gu Qingqian's heavens will earlier and discovered that his heavens will fire was green in color. There were a total of 4 flames. This was a 4-star green life, which was enough for him to cultivate to the 4-star supremacy realm. With this kind of cultivation talent, it would not be strange for him to cultivate to the 7th level of the celestial vortex realm at the age of 16. How could he not break through to the celestial vortex realm? Gu Jinyang was stunned. Young Master Yi, you can see the problem with Qingqian? Yi Xing blinked to express his affirmation. Although Gu Jinyang did not find anything wrong with Gu Qingqian, he had always been suspicious. Now that he heard Yi Xing say this, he looked at Yi Xing with a glimmer of hope. Gu Jinyang quickly walked to the bedside and asked excitedly, "Young master, do you know how to save him?" Yi Xing blinked again and said, "There is an aura left behind by a supremacy in Qingqian's dantian. As long as this aura is present, Qingqian will not be able to form a celestial vortex in his dantian. When I recover from my injuries, I can get rid of this aura." Gu Jinyang was shocked. An aura left behind by a supremacy? Yi Xing said, "That's right. I don't know how many supremacies Qingqian has interacted with. If there are not many, or if there is only one, then the answer is very clear." Gu Jinyang suddenly raised his voice and said loudly, "I know who it is. It is Supremacy Tang Bin from the Star Plucking Palace. When young master was 13 years old, Supremacy Tang Bin came to the Gu clan. Gu Songbei asked Supremacy Tang Bin to take young master as a disciple. After that, Honorable Lord Tang Bin had examined the young master's aptitude. At that time, Honorable Lord Tang Bin had said that although the young master was blessed by the heavens, his physique was flawed, and it would be difficult for him to even break through to the celestial vortex realm in this lifetime. Since then, young master's position in the Gu clan had plummeted, and he was slowly bullied by the younger generation of the Gu clan. Especially Gu Zongbei's son, Gu Qingshan, who was the worst. My young master was bullied by him the most. Yi Xing said, "It seems that Gu Zongbei asking Tang Bin to take Qingqian as a disciple was just putting on a show with Tang Bin. As a high-level astral reaching realm supremacy, Tang Bin cooperated with Gu Zongbei to put on a show. Are they close?" Gu Jinyang said, "Gu Zongbei's wife, Tang Yu, is from the Tang clan. She is Tang Bin's younger brother's daughter." As he spoke, Gu Jinyang slapped his thigh and said, "I understand now. 6 years ago, no wonder Tang Ming came to the Gu clan and said that there was an opportunity to break through to the mid-level supremacy realm in the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land. He invited the family head and madam to the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land to train, but he never returned. This was definitely a conspiracy. The goal was to kill the family head and madam so that Gu Zongbei could become the family head." There was a lot of information in Gu Jinyang's words. Yi Xing asked, "Tang Ming, who is he?" The description of the power in the first 2 chapters was wrong. The Gu clan was a 2-star power, not a 4-star power. The Star Plucking Palace was a 3-star power, not a 5-star power. Chapter 717. Gu Jinyang said, "Tang Ming is Tang Yu's father and Tang Bin's younger brother. He's a 3-star venerable like the patriarch and madam." Yi Xing was able to see through Gu Qingqian's problem and solve it. Gu Jinyang had placed all his hopes on Yi Xing. Therefore, even though it was the first time he met Yi Xing, he still told him about the Gu clan's past. Of course, this was also because Gu Jinyang thought that Yi Xing was a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace. He trusted Yi Xing a lot. The Dark Moon Palace was a 4-star force, one of the 7 superpowers in Starry Crescent Land. It was on the same level as the Astral Palace behind the Astral Dynasty. In front of such a superpower, the Zhaixing Palace was nothing. Therefore, since Yi Xing could see through Gu Qingqian's problem, Gu Jinyang believed that Yi Xing could solve Gu Qingqian's problem. Like the Gu clan, the Tang clan is a 2-star force. Gu Jinyang explained again in detail. Yi Xing finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. The Tang clan and the Gu clan were two-star forces in Yuezhou. They were under the jurisdiction of the Jiaxing Palace, a three-star force. Tang Bin of the Tang clan had become a seven-star venerable lord due to some fortuitous encounters. He had a prominent position in the Jiaxing Palace and became an elder, causing the Tang clan's status to soar. As a result, Gu Songbei, who had married the Tang clan's woman, also had a higher status in the Gu clan because of his wife's prosperity. Moreover, he was somewhat dissatisfied with his brother, Gu Tongnan, as the patriarch. Therefore, one day when Gu Qingshan was 10 years old, Tang Bin's younger brother, Tang Ming, came to the Gu clan and said that there was an opportunity to become a mid-level venerable in the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land. He went to the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land with Gu Tongnan and his wife and never returned. After that, Gu Songbei became the acting patriarch. However, due to Gu Tongnan and his wife's high prestige in the Gu clan, Gu Songbei's authority was limited at first. 2 years later, news spread that Gu Tongnan and his wife had died in the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land. At this time, Tang Bin, an elder of the Star-Plucking Palace, also came to the Gu clan. Gu Songbei asked Tang Bin to take Gu Qingshan as his disciple, but Tang Bin left a trace of his aura in Gu Qingshan's body, making it impossible for Gu Qingshan to break through to the Star Vortex realm. From then on, Gu Qingshan's position in the Gu family plummeted. As for Gu Songbei, with the support of his wife, Tang Yu, his power in the Gu family grew. By now, the majority of the elders in the Gu clan had already sided with Gu Songbei. They were only waiting for Gu Qingshan to reach the age of 16. At that time, before Gu Qingshan had broken through to the Star Vortex realm, Gu Songbei would officially become the head of the Gu clan. Gu Qingshan saved my life. I have to help him break through to the Star Vortex realm and ascend to the position of the Gu clan's patriarch. Yi Xing thought to himself. In the following days, Gu Jinyang knew that it was impossible for Gu Qingshan to break through to the Star Vortex realm. Hence, he did not let Gu Qingshan practice any cultivation techniques. Instead, he allowed Gu Qingshan to practice martial arts every day. Gu Qingshan's comprehension was not bad. Furthermore, as the Venerable 9-star, Gu Jinyang was more than capable of guiding Gu Qingshan in his cultivation of supreme martial arts. Gu Qingshan's martial arts attainments were not weak. Many of his supreme martial arts had reached the great perfection realm. Other than practicing martial arts every day, Gu Qingshan also brewed medicine for Yi Xing. Although it did not have much of an effect, Yi Xing did not refuse Gu Qingshan's kindness. Time passed by. After a month, Yi Xing's injuries had recovered quite a bit. He could already get out of bed and walk around. Furthermore, Yi Xing could use part of his astral energy. It could be said that he had recovered some of his strength. As Gu Qingshan's 16th birthday approached, his days in the Gu clan became more and more difficult. In this month he was beaten a few more times. Almost every time, he was bullied by Gu Qingshan. After he could get out of bed and walk around, Yi Xing left the courtyard and went to a flat area in the back mountain to watch Gu Qingshan cultivate. As an 8-star venerable, Yi Xing's eyesight was much better than Gu Jinyang's. Furthermore, he had the super brain scan, so he could clearly see any flaws in Gu Qingshan's cultivation. Yi Xing naturally gave Gu Qingshan a few pointers. This allowed Gu Jinyang to understand his own flaws. As he slowly corrected them, his martial arts attainments grew higher and higher. There were signs of him breaking through to the transformative realm. Gu Jinyang was very impressed by this. Gu Qingshan was even more worshipful of Yi Xing. Because Yi Xing's pointers made him feel like his comprehension of martial arts had suddenly improved. As Yi Xing's strength recovered, Gu Jinyang could sense that Yi Xing's aura was becoming more and more terrifying. His cultivation base had reached a level that even he could not judge. Gu Jinyang knew that he had met an expert. However, he did not find it strange that Yi Xing was a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace. As a 4-star power, the Dark Moon Palace even had Star Sea Realm Kings among their genius disciples. Therefore, when Yi Xing started to give pointers to Gu Jinyang consciously stopped and let Gu Qingshan cultivate according to Yi Xing's pointers. Another half a month passed. Yi Xing's injuries were getting better and better. He had recovered more than 70% of his strength. In another half a month he would be completely recovered. Gu Qingshan's several supreme-grade martial arts had also broken through to the transformative realm under Yi Xing's pointers. His strength had increased greatly. Furthermore, Yi Xing also took out some low-grade spirit herbs for Gu Qingshan to cultivate his physical body cultivation technique. This would strengthen his physical body in the star-tempering realm and lay a good foundation. On this day, Gu Qingshan went out to buy herbs again. Unlike before, he jogged all the way to Yi Xing with an excited smile on his face. "Big brother Yi Xing, I won, I won," Gu Qingshan said excitedly. He was so happy that he danced with joy. Martial arts that have reached the transformative realm are indeed powerful. In addition, my physical strength has increased greatly. This time, I defeated all the one-star marquises who bullied me. Gu Qingshan was so excited that he could not sleep. He was at the 9th level of the star-tempering realm and had defeated several star vortex realm martial artists. For so many years, Gu Qingshan had been beaten up. He had never felt so elated before. Looking at the excited Gu Qingshan, Yi Xing had a thought. Gu Qingshan could be considered elated this time. However, his strength had increased greatly, and this would definitely attract Gu Songbei's attention. Now, other than Gu Qingshan and Gu Jinyang, no one in the Gu family knew about Yi Xing's existence. However, from today onwards, Gu Songbei would definitely send people to investigate. My injuries will recover soon. I don't need to stay here anymore. Yi Xing looked at the mountains and thought to himself, I can find a place to live in seclusion and not let the Gu family know. After Gu Qingshan becomes the family head, I will leave and go to the Big Dipper Sword sect to see Brother Feng. Gu Qingshan did not notice Yi Xing's expression and said excitedly, It's a pity that I didn't beat Gu Qingshan today. I only tied with him. He is at the 2nd level of the Star Vortex realm. It seems that I have to break through to the Star Vortex realm to defeat him. After I become the family head, I will continue to cultivate diligently. In the future, I will become an expert like my father and mother. At that time, I will go to the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land to find them. Chapter 719. Yi Xing stood up and put away all the corpse jades. Originally, he was going to refine the corpse jades to raise his cultivation after he recovered. But now, it seemed that he had to find a place to raise the quality of his starfire seed before he could refine the corpse jades. With his current cultivation, only the corpse jades of profound grade 5 and 6 would be effective. Qingshan will turn 16 in a month. Even if I help him break through to the Star Vortex realm, he won't be able to escape from Gu Songbei's evil hands without my help. I'll wait for a month and deal with Qingshan's problem before heading to the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land. Yi Xing thought to himself. After leaving the wooden house, Yi Xing went to the other side of the mountain and opened his martial Dao Heavenly Eye. On this day, Gu Qingshan was cultivating at the back of the mountain as usual. Gu Jinyang was watching from the side. Yi Xing checked Gu Qingshan's surroundings and did not find anyone watching him. Yi Xing's figure flashed and left the mountain. Soon, he arrived at Gu Qingshan's location. Yi Xing's speed was so fast that even Gu Jinyang, a venerable 9-star, could not see Yi Xing's figure. When Yi Xing suddenly appeared, both Gu Qingshan and Gu Jinyang were shocked. Seeing that the person who appeared was Yi Xing, the two of them relaxed. Young Master Yi Xing is so fast. Even the family head does not have such speed. It seems that young Master Yi Xing is at least a mid-level venerable. Gu Jinyang exclaimed inwardly. At the same time, he guessed Yi Xing's cultivation. When Gu Qingshan saw Yi Xing, he cheered after recovering from his shock. Big brother Yi Xing, your injuries are all healed? Yi Xing smiled and nodded. I'll clear the aura in your dantian today. With your cultivation, you'll be able to break through to the Star Vortex realm soon. Gu Qingshan's eyes lit up, and he became excited. He had been dreaming of breaking through to the Star Vortex realm. Gu Jinyang said, Young Master, it's your fortune to meet young Master Yi. Hurry up and thank him. Sigh. Yi Xing raised his hand and stopped Gu Qingshan from thanking him. He said, If you hadn't saved me, I might have been torn apart by the wild beasts in the mountains. How could I still be alive today? I helped you solve some small problems. Compared to you saving my life, this is nothing. As he spoke, Yixing walked over to Gu Qingchen and said, "Sit down." Oh. Gu Qingchen sat down. Yixing sat down opposite Gu Qingchen. He stretched out his hands and grabbed Gu Qingchen's hands. Relax your mind and don't move your body. It will be done very soon. Gu Qingchen nodded. Very quickly, Gu Qingchen felt a warm current pass through Yixing's palms. It traveled along his arms and into his body, finally reaching his dantian. The heat flow lingered in his dantian for a while, and a warm feeling came, which was very comfortable. In less than 10 breaths, the energy flow in Gu Qingchen's dantian dissipated and left his body. Tang Bin, who had left his aura in Gu Qingchen's dantian, was a 7-star supremacy, while Yixing was an 8-star supremacy. Yixing's astral energy was much stronger than Tang Bin's, so it was naturally easy for him to remove Tang Bin's aura. Yixing released his hands and said, "All right, I have removed the aura in your dantian. You can now condense a star vortex and break through to the star vortex realm." Gu Qingchen's eyes lit up as he nodded excitedly. Yixing stood up and walked to the side, standing beside Gu Jinyang. In order not to disturb Gu Qingchen, Gu Jinyang did not say anything. However, he bowed deeply to Yixing to express his gratitude. Yixing quickly helped Gu Jinyang up. Gu Qingchen closed his eyes and circulated his cultivation technique. The dense inner qi in his body gathered in his dantian. In the surrounding void, the astral energy also sensed it and automatically flowed towards Gu Qingchen, being absorbed by his body. When one broke through to the star vortex realm, the fluctuation of astral energy was very small. It could only be felt within a few hundred meters. Gu Qingchen's residence was already remote enough in the Gu clan. Now, Gu Qingchen was in the back mountain of his residence. Other than Yixing and Gu Jinyang, there was no one else within a few hundred meters. The Gu clan naturally did not know that Gu Qingchen was breaking through to the star vortex realm. Gu Qingchen's cultivation should have reached the star vortex realm long ago. However, due to the aura left by Tang Bin in his dantian, as long as Gu Qingchen condensed a star vortex, the aura would disperse the star vortex. Therefore, no matter what, Gu Qingchen could not condense a star vortex and break through to the star vortex realm. Now, the aura in Gu Qingchen's dantian had been removed by Yixing. Gu Qingchen's cultivation talent was very high, and he had not stopped cultivating during the 2 years when he was stuck at the 9th level of the star tempering realm. His cultivation had accumulated a lot. Now that he had condensed a star vortex, there was no external force to stop him. Naturally, he succeeded. In just a few breaths' time, Gu Qingchen's aura changed. The star vortex in his dantian had completely condensed and formed. The internal qi in his body had undergone a qualitative change. It had turned into star essence of a higher quality, and his strength had increased greatly. Gu Qingchen's cultivation had broken through to the 1st level of the star vortex realm and officially entered the martial path. However, Gu Qingchen's cultivation did not stop after he broke through to the star vortex realm. His aura was still increasing rapidly, and the star essence in his body was getting stronger. Gu Qingchen's cultivation at the 9th level of the star tempering realm was too strong. Now that he had broken through to the star vortex realm, the consolidated astral energy in his body was like a gate that had been opened. It gushed out crazily and strengthened his cultivation. Mid-1st level, late 1st level, peak 1st level, Gu Qingchen's cultivation was increasing at a visible speed. Soon, the surrounding astral energy in the void sensed it and gathered toward Gu Qingchen's body. Gu Qingchen started to break through to the 2nd level of the star vortex realm again. It was not that Gu Qingchen was biting off more than he could chew. It was just that he had accumulated too much over the past 2 years. Now that he had accumulated enough, breaking through to the next level would not stop his cultivation from increasing. Therefore, he continued to break through. Not long after, Gu Qingchen's aura increased by another notch. His cultivation had broken through to the 2nd level of the star vortex realm. After breaking through, Gu Qingchen's cultivation continued to increase. Soon he reached the mid-2nd level, late 2nd level, It was only when he reached the late second level of the Star Vortex realm that he stopped consolidating his cultivation. He slowly opened his eyes, and they were filled with surprise. In the past, Gu Qingchen had been looking forward to breaking through to the Star Vortex realm. However, he had not succeeded for 2 years. Today, not only had he broken through to the Star Vortex realm, but his cultivation had also made continuous breakthroughs. He had advanced triumphantly all the way to the second level of the Star Vortex realm. How could he not be happy? I have broken through to the Star Vortex realm, and I am a 2-star marquis. Gu Qingchen stood up and felt the cultivation in his body. His voice was trembling with excitement. Similarly excited was Gu Jinyang. He looked at Gu Qingchen with gratification, unable to contain his joy. Chapter 720. In order to give Gu Zongbei a surprise, on Gu Qingchen's coming-of-age ceremony, Yixing sealed Gu Qingchen's cultivation so that he still looked like a level 9-star tempering realm martial artist. After breaking through to the Star Vortex realm, the inner qi in his body had been strengthened to star origin, and he could cultivate spiritual martial arts. Gu Qingchen had awakened the upper-class metal element astrology. Yixing had inherited the lower-class spiritual martial art, metal elemental /. As for the martial arts inheritance, the Gu family had their own martial arts. With Yixing's guidance, Gu Qingchen's inferior spiritual martial art improved by leaps and bounds. After a month, Gu Qingchen's metal origin / had reached the perfection stage. Although Yixing's guidance had contributed greatly to Gu Qingchen's speed, it was also largely due to Gu Qingchen's talent in martial arts and his diligence. The Starry Crescent Lands calendar was the same as the Star Continents calendar. After teaching Gu Qingchen how to cultivate the inferior spiritual martial art, another year had passed. Yixing was already 23 years old. Half a month after the end of the year, Gu Qingchen's birthday was on the 15th of January. On this day, Gu Qingchen would reach adulthood at the age of 16. This day was a big event for the Gu clan. When the young master reached adulthood, he would inherit the position of clan leader. However, everyone in the Gu clan knew that it was impossible for Gu Qingchen to succeed. In the morning, the elders of the Gu clan walked out of their mansions and came to the Gu clan's ancestral hall. The ancestral hall was a place to worship the ancestors. Regardless of whether the position of clan leader was inherited or taken away, it had to be carried out in the ancestral hall. The acting clan leader, Gu Zongbei, was a middle-aged man in his 30s. He smiled and greeted the elders in the clan. He was in a very good mood. In the entire Gu clan, other than the great elder, Gu Jinyuan, who was not on good terms with him, the rest of the elders were on good terms with him. Although the great elder, Gu Jinyuan, was the leader of the Gu family, as long as Gu Qingchen could not even step into the Star Vortex realm, he did not have the qualifications to inherit the position of patriarch. Gu Jinyuan could not stop Gu Zongbei from taking away Gu Qingchen's right to inherit the position of patriarch, nor could he stop Gu Zongbei from ascending to the position of patriarch. Today's matter was divided into 2 stages. The first stage was to strip Gu Qingchen of his right to inherit the patriarch position. The second stage was for Gu Zongbei to officially become the patriarch. Both of them had to testify in front of the ancestral tablets in the ancestral hall. Beside Gu Zongbei stood a beautiful middle-aged woman. All the elders respected her, even more than Gu Zongnan. She was naturally Gu Zongbei's wife Tang Yu. The Tang family was powerful. Furthermore, Lord Tang Bin was Tang Yu's biological uncle. This caused Tang Yu's position in the Gu family to be rather high. In name, the Gu family's matters were managed by Gu Zongbei, the acting family head. In reality, the person who truly made the decisions was Tang Yu. Young Lord Qingchen is here. A guard shouted from outside the ancestral hall. Immediately after, someone ran in and reported to Gu Zongbei, family head, among the people that Gu Qingchen brought, other than Gu Jinyang, there's also an unfamiliar young man. Gu Zongbei's eyes narrowed slightly as he said, "An unfamiliar young man? What's his cultivation?" The person who was reporting said, "This person has concealed his cultivation, and his aura is completely hidden. I can't tell." Gu Songbei asked again, "Where's Xianxia?" The person who was reporting said, "He's still at the 9th level of the star-tempering realm." As long as there were no accidents with Gu Xianxia's cultivation, no one could stop him, Gu Songbei, from becoming the Gu family's family head. Gu Songbei waved his hand, and the person who was reporting retreated. Soon, Gu Xianxia walked in. As for Yi Xing and Gu Jinyang, they were stopped outside the ancestral hall. Today was a major event for the Gu family. Even in the Gu family, only the elders could enter. The others had to wait outside. Of course, it was the same for outsiders. The moment Gu Xianxia entered the ancestral hall, everyone's gazes landed on him as they inspected his cultivation. Most of these elders were 1-star venerables, and very few were 2-star venerables. Of course, they could not see Yi Xing's seal and thought that Gu Xianxia had yet to break through to the star vortex realm. "Greetings, uncle and elders." Gu Xianxia's expression did not change as he bowed to everyone. After breaking through to the star vortex realm, Gu Xianxia's mental state had improved tremendously. In addition to Yi Xing's intentional training, Gu Xianxia could be said to have undergone a complete transformation. In the past, if Gu Xianxia faced Gu Songbei and the other elders, he would definitely be very timid and would not be able to raise his head. Now, however, he could face them with a normal expression. Of course, Gu Xianxia's heart was not as calm as he looked. His heart was still beating faster. The elders were surprised by Gu Xianxia's performance. However, seeing that Gu Xianxia's cultivation had yet to break through to the star vortex realm, they did not look at him anymore. Without breaking through to the star vortex realm, there was no change. From today onwards, Gu Xianxia's right to inherit the family head position would be taken away, and he would become an ordinary family member. The great elder, Gu Jinyuan, did not support Gu Songbei to become the family head. However, seeing that Gu Xianxia's cultivation was still at the 9th level of the star-tempering realm, he closed his eyes and entered a meditative state. He could not stop today's matter, nor was he interested in stopping it. Since Xianxia is here, then today's ancestral worship will begin. Gu Songbei walked to the center of the ancestral hall and faced the ancestral tablet. He bowed deeply and said, "Ancestors above." First, Gu Songbei recited a long memorial speech. It was nothing more than praising the merits of the ancestors and the contributions that each generation of the family head had made to the family. Looking at the history of the family heads, they were all heroes with unparalleled martial arts and were the best in the family. Those who took over the family head position at a young age were also geniuses of the younger generation. When they reached adulthood, they were all star marquis. There has never been a precedent of someone who did not become a star marquis when they reached adulthood. As Gu Songbei spoke, he changed the topic and turned it to Gu Xianxia. Today, there is a disdainful descendant, Gu Xianxia. As the successor of the family head, his aptitude is extremely poor. After cultivating for a few years, he has yet to step into the star vortex realm when he reached adulthood. He has wasted the family's nurturing. With such behavior, if he were to inherit the family head position, wouldn't it bring shame to the Gu family? It would make our ancestors blush with shame. The current family head, Gu Songbei, requests instructions from the ancestors to strip Gu Xianxia of his right to inherit the family head position. Elders, please make a decision. As soon as Gu Songbei finished speaking, some elders wanted to speak up in support. However, Gu Xianxia spoke before anyone else. Gu Xianxia said, "Uncle, this is the family ancestral hall. How can you slander me in front of the ancestors?" The elders' words immediately stopped in their mouths. Gu Songbei looked at Gu Xianxia in surprise and shouted, "What did you say? When did I slander you?" Gu Xianxia revealed a trace of a smile and said, "I have clearly broken through to the star vortex realm. Why did Uncle say that I have yet to become a star marquis and bring shame to the Gu family and our ancestors? If this is not slander, what is it?" As he spoke, Gu Xianxia used the method that Yi Xing had taught him to unseal the cultivation in his body. The aura of a second-level star vortex realm instantly leaked out from Gu Xianxia's body. Chapter 721. In the Gu clan ancestral hall, Gu Tongbei, Tang Yu, and the Gu clan elders were stunned. Gu Qingshan's cultivation was actually second-level star vortex realm. In an instant, everyone's expressions became extremely interesting. Great Elder Gu Jinyuan opened his eyes. His eyes were also filled with shock, but they shone brightly. Gu Songbei looked at Gu Qingshan and exclaimed, "This is impossible. How did you break through to the star vortex realm?" Gu Qingshan looked at Gu Songbei and said, "Oh, uncle, is it really impossible for me to break through to the star vortex realm?" Although Gu Songbei had treated Gu Qingshan badly ever since he became the acting clan leader, Gu Qingshan did not hate him. Even though Gu Jinyang had told Gu Qingshan that he could not break through to the star vortex realm and that it might be Gu Songbei's doing, without any evidence, Gu Qingshan could not hate his uncle. However, ever since Yi Xing had told him about the problem in his dantian and solved it for him, Gu Qingshan was filled with hatred for Gu Songbei no matter how pure he was. Gu Qingshan stared at Gu Songbei's eyes. His gaze was sharp as a sword, and there was anger hidden in his eyes. Gu Songbei had a guilty conscience. Being stared at by Gu Qingshan, he felt guilty and avoided his gaze. Tang Yu walked up to Gu Songbei and said, "Gu Qingshan, after you broke through to the 9th level of the star-tempering realm, your cultivation did not improve for 2 years. My uncle, Honorable Lord Tang Bin, was right. Your aptitude is too poor, and it will be difficult for you to achieve great things. Now that you suddenly broke through to the 2nd level of the star vortex realm, you must have used some medicine to forcefully raise your cultivation in order to inherit the clan leader's position, right? You already have a bleak future ahead of you. Now that you have not even built a solid foundation, you are spoiling things by pulling up seedlings to help them grow. What can you achieve in the future? If the clan leader's position is passed to you, it will be a great decline." Gu Qingshan's aptitude was not bad. He was a 4-star green life. However, Honorable Lord Tang Bin had left a trace of Honorable Lord's aura in Gu Qingshan's dantian, so Gu Qingshan could not form a star vortex and break through to the star vortex realm. Naturally, Exalted Lord Tang Bin would not lie through his teeth and say that Gu Qingshan's aptitude was poor. Instead, he would say that Gu Qingshan's physique was not good enough. Now, Tang Yu had directly labeled Gu Qingshan as someone with poor aptitude. The elders and Gu Songbei had long been in cahoots. Once Tang Yu's words came out, someone echoed, "Madam is right." At this moment, a cold laugh resounded. The first elder, Gu Jinyuan, spoke. "Qingshan's fate is a 4-star green fate, the highest fate in the history of our Gu clan. You call this a lack of aptitude?" Then, everyone here, including this old man, would have the aptitude of trash. Previously, when Gu Jinyuan saw that Gu Qingshan was already 16 years old but still had not broken through to the star vortex realm, he also believed Honorable Lord Tang Bin's words. Naturally, he could not be bothered to speak up for a useless Gu Qingshan. Now, it was different. Honorable Lord Tang Bin had said that it would be difficult for Gu Qingshan to break through to the star vortex realm. Now that Gu Qingshan had broken through to the star vortex realm, it meant that he could continue to cultivate. With Gu Qingshan's cultivation talent of a 4-star green fate, he would definitely become a 4-star venerable in the future. The Gu clan had never had a middle-level venerable. As the Gu clan's first elder, how could Gu Jinyuan not stand on Gu Qingshan's side? If it wasn't for Gu Jinyuan mentioning it, the Gu clan's elders would have all forgotten about Gu Qingshan's fate. Now that they were reminded by Gu Jinyuan, they realized that Gu Qingshan's fate had broken the Gu clan's record. This was a future 4-star venerable. How could he not be qualified to succeed the position of clan leader? Although the elders had already colluded with Gu Songbei and had received benefits from him, there were still fence-sitters. Seeing that Gu Qingshan's fate was high, his potential was great, and he had the first elder's protection, a few elders immediately changed their tone and spoke up for Gu Qingshan. First elder is right. A 4-star green fate means that he will definitely become a 4-star venerable in the future. How could Qingshan's talent not be enough to succeed the position of clan leader? If Qingshan enters the star-plucking palace, he might even become a high-level astral-reaching realm venerable in the future, just like Tang Bin of the Tang clan. How could his right to succeed the clan leader be taken away? Gu Songbei's and Tang Yu's faces darkened. In order to become the official clan leader of the Gu clan, they had waited for several years for Gu Qingchen to turn 16. The reason why they had not killed Gu Qingchen earlier was so that they could become the official clan leader today. Instead, they had forcefully snatched the position away from them, which would make them look bad. However, judging from the current situation, it would be very difficult for Gu Songbei to become the clan leader. Gu Songbei and Tang Yu did not understand. Gu Qingchen had the aura left behind by Tang Bin in his body. This was the aura left behind by a venerable. As long as it remained in Gu Qingchen's dantian, he would not be able to break through to the star vortex realm. However, Gu Qingchen had just broken through to the celestial vortex realm, and he had even broken through to the second level of the celestial vortex realm. What was going on? How could Tang Bin make a mistake? At the same time, Gu Songbei thought of the report just now. Other than the old servant Gu Jinyang, there was also an unfamiliar young man who had come with Gu Qingchen. Could it be him? Gu Songbei's heart jumped. Gu Songbei thought about it and could only think of the unfamiliar young man. This was because the unfamiliar young man was the only anomaly beside Gu Qingchen. Since there was a change in the situation, it could only be the doing of this unfamiliar young man. How dare you meddle in my Gu clan's business? You're courting death. Gu Songbei clenched his fists and a fierce aura exploded. In the ancestral hall, everyone in the Gu clan had restrained their aura. At this moment, Gu Songbei's aura exploded and revealed a fierce aura. Naturally, it attracted everyone's attention. Gu Songbei stared at Gu Qingchen and shouted, "You were able to break through to the star vortex realm because of the stranger who came with you, right?" Previously, he had been stared at by Gu Qingchen and felt a little guilty. Now, Gu Songbei was going all out and had made up his mind to snatch the position of the clan leader. The awkwardness in his heart had disappeared. Gu Qingchen stared at Gu Songbei and asked loudly, "Someone left an aura in my dantian so that I would never be able to break through to the star vortex realm. Was this your idea or someone else's?" Gu Songbei coldly snorted and said, "Since you already know, then I'll say it clearly today. The position of the Gu family's patriarch must be taken by me. Even if you don't want to, you have to." The elders of the Gu clan all looked at Gu Songbei. Although they had colluded before, it was under the premise that Gu Songbei had a legitimate reason to do so. Now, Gu Songbei was clearly trying to snatch it. Moreover, it was in front of the ancestral tablets in the ancestral hall, causing the elders to be stunned. Chapter 722. Gu Songbei, you have quite the nerve. In front of your dead ancestors, you actually dare to say such disgraceful words. The first elder, Gu Jinyuan, shouted angrily. With a flash, he appeared beside Gu Qingchen. Gu Songbei laughed and said, "I'm the strongest person in the Gu family. All these years, the Gu family has been in good order under my management. Why can't I be the patriarch?" Gu Jinyuan said, "A country has its laws, and a family has its rules. The Gu family is a large family that has been passed down for thousands of years. The reason why it has been prosperous is because it acts according to the family rules. According to the family rules, you, Gu Songbei, are not qualified to be the patriarch. It's already your great fortune to be the acting patriarch for a few years. If you dare to snatch the patriarch's position, you'll be disobeying your ancestors and a traitor to the family." "Traitor?" Gu Songbei sneered and said, "Those who oppose me are the traitors of the Gu family. Now, I announce that I, Gu Songbei, am the official patriarch of the Gu family. Whoever dares to stop me will be killed without mercy." Gu Jinyuan shouted, "You said you're the strongest person in the Gu family, but I don't believe it. If you dare to disobey your ancestors and disrupt the family rules, I'll kill you." The two looked at each other like fighting cocks, and a terrifying aura erupted from them. The elders looked at each other, not knowing what to do. One was the acting patriarch, and the other was the first elder. They were both peak 2-star venerables, and were at the top in terms of strength and power in the family. Now that the two were opposing each other, a life and death battle was about to break out. No matter which side they stood on, they would become enemies with the other side. Most of the elders were hesitating. Only a small number of elders stood behind Gu Songbei and Gu Jinyuan. Seeing this, Tang Yu covered her mouth and laughed. She said, "My Tang family is very supportive of Songbei becoming the official patriarch. Moreover, my uncle, Supreme Lord Tang Bin, has come to the Gu family as a guest. Whoever dares to disobey the patriarch, you know what the consequences are?" Tang Yu's words were soft, but everyone's expression tightened when they heard it. Supreme Lord Tang Bin was an elder of the Xianxia Palace, and now he was in the Gu family? After Gu Tongnan and his wife went missing, the Gu clan did not even have a 3-star supremacy. A mid-level supremacy could suppress the entire Gu clan, let alone supremacy Tang Bin. Tang Yu's gaze swept across the elders as she asked, "Have you all not made your choice yet?" The elders looked at each other with fear in their eyes and walked behind Gu Songbei. 90% of the elders stood on Gu Songbei's side. That's right. A proud smile appeared on Tang Yu's face as she said, "With the support of the Tang family, the Gu family will be able to develop even better. The person who stopped Songbei from becoming the head of the family has no concept of the family at all. He only thinks about his own benefits and doesn't think about the family. He really deserves to die." Haha. Gu Songbei laughed wildly and said, "Gu Jinyuan, this family head will now strip you of your position as the first elder. If you surrender, I can still spare your life on account of your contributions to the family. Otherwise, I'll let you die today." As he spoke, Gu Songbei's gaze swept across the elders who stood behind Gu Jinyuan. "You all are really not afraid of death." The elders had long regretted it in their hearts. Now that they felt Gu Songbei's killing intent, their hearts trembled as they hurriedly said, "We support the head of the family, we support the head of the family." As they spoke, they had already moved to stand behind Gu Songbei. Only Gu Jinyuan was left beside Gu Qingchen. Gu Jinyuan was so angry that he trembled. He pointed at Gu Songbei and shouted, "How much of the family's benefits did you betray to get the Tang family to work for you?" In contrast to Gu Jinyuan's anger, Gu Qingchen's expression was still calm. Yi Xing had already predicted this and told him about it. Gu Qingchen said, "Uncle, I'll call you uncle for the last time. Are you blinded by greed and went to the Tang family for the head of the family and betrayed the family's benefits? Or were you instigated by others? Or were you forced to?" Gu Songbei laughed and said, "I'm doing this for the development of the Gu family. What do you, a brat, know? Originally, I wanted to politely get the head of the family position, but I didn't expect you to ruin it at the last moment. If I had known this, why would I have waited for a few years? I would have killed you long ago. Now, what's the use of keeping you alive?" Gu Songbei shouted. His killing intent surged as he slapped Gu Qingchen's head with his palm. "How dare you!" Gu Jinyuan shouted angrily. He was about to stop Gu Songbei when he heard the sound of something breaking through the air. It was Tang Yu who had suddenly thrown a flying knife at Gu Jinyuan's head. If this knife hit Gu Jinyuan's head, he would definitely die. Tang Yu was also a 2-star venerable, and her strength was not much inferior to Gu Jinyuan's. It was difficult for Gu Jinyuan to block this flying knife with a sudden sneak attack, let alone Gu Qingchen. Gu Jinyuan's speed exploded to the limit, and he barely dodged the flying knife's attack. At the same time, a shrill scream was heard. The scream came from Gu Songbei's mouth. His palm fell on Gu Qingchen's head, and it was caught by a hand. This hand was like an iron clamp, squeezing Gu Songbei's palm together, and the bones inside were crushed into pieces. What was more frightening was that a scorching strong current came from the hand and invaded Gu Songbei's meridians, making Gu Songbei feel as if his entire arm was being cut by a knife. The owner of this hand, who was standing beside Gu Qingchen, was a young man in black. It was Yi Xing. The people of the Gu family did not know Yi Xing. Looking at this unfamiliar young man, they were all shocked. Gu Songbei was a 2-star venerable, but his palm was so easily caught by the other party. What kind of cultivation did this unfamiliar young man have? Could he be a middle-stage venerable? "Who are you? Let me go!" Gu Songbei shouted, and there was fear in his eyes. Bang! Yixing's strong current exploded in his palm, and Gu Zongbei's palm was directly blown into pieces, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Ah! Gu Zongbei screamed. His entire palm was gone. Even if his injury was healed, he would still be a cripple. Zongbei! Tang Yu was shocked. Her figure flashed to Gu Zongbei's side, and she looked at Yixing with fear. She shouted, "Uncle!" Lord Tangbin was in the Gu family. However, he did not plan to show himself at the beginning. He only wanted to support Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu. After all, interfering with the succession of the family head was not a good reputation. He did not care about what the Gu family thought, but there were many families in the world, and there were many families stronger than the Tang family. If he interfered and broke the rules, it would cause the other families to hate him. Therefore, he did not plan to show himself and only secretly stayed in the Gu family. Moreover, he did not need to show himself. As long as Tang Yu reported his name as the family head, Gu Zongbei would become the family head. Naturally, there would not be many people who would dare to stop him. However, he had to show himself now. Chapter 723. A long howl sounded from the family head's residence. With that howl, a figure rushed into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he traversed several miles and appeared above the Gu family's ancestral hall. Tangbin's cultivation aura erupted. The terrifying aura of a supremacy spread in all directions, forming a huge pressure. Under this pressure, many Gu family martial artists swayed, unable to stand steadily. "Who is it? How dare you not give me supremacy?" Tangbin face. "Come out." Tangbin stood in the sky and shouted. His voice reverberated, deafening the Gu family martial artists. Looking at Tangbin in the sky, the Gu family martial artists' eyes were filled with fear. The Gu family was only a 2-star inferior family. Compared to them, a 7-star supremacy was too terrifying. As long as a 7-star supremacy wanted to, he could easily wipe out the Gu family. Tang Yu glared fiercely at Yixing and shouted, "I don't care who you are or where you've come from. Since you've dared to hurt my husband today, my uncle will tear you to pieces and make sure you die without a proper burial." Yixing looked very young, only 18 or 19 years old. With such a young appearance, even if he was a supremacy, he shouldn't be that old. Such a young supremacy shouldn't have a high cultivation. Although there were many factions in the Starry Crescent land that were stronger than the Xianxia Palace, Tang Yu didn't believe that Gu Qingchen would know any of them. Therefore, with Tangbin, a 7-star supremacy, around, although Tang Yu was wary of Yixing, she didn't think much of him. She believed that Yixing would die without a doubt. Yixing glanced coldly at Tang Yu, grabbed Gu Qingchen's arm, and left the Gu family's ancestral hall. Yixing's cultivation aura erupted. He was also a 7-star supremacy. The Xianxia Palace was a 3-star faction. Even the weakest 3-star faction had a king overseeing it. Yixing had no enmity with the Xianxia Palace. His goal today was to let Gu Qingchen become the family head. It wasn't good to start a feud with the Xianxia Palace. Therefore, it was better to scare Tangbin away. Whether it was Tangbin or the Gu family martial artists, they were all shocked. They had never imagined that Yixing would be a 7-star supremacy at such a young age. The younger one was, the more potential one had. Yixing was already a 7-star supremacy at such a young age. It was very likely that he would become an 8-star supremacy or even a 9-star supremacy in the future. On the other hand, Tangbin was already over 100 years old. The reason he had become a 7-star High Lord was because of various fortuitous encounters. He had already reached the peak of his cultivation and could not make any further progress. Upon seeing that Yixing was also a 7-star supremacy and that he was so young, Tangbin's aura calmed down a lot. Tangbin said, "Your Excellency is also a 7-star venerable lord, so you're definitely not a nobody. May I know your name and which force you're from?" Although his aura had calmed down considerably, Tangbin's tone was still unyielding. Although he did not have the same potential as the other party, as an elder of the Xianxia Palace, the Xianxia Palace behind him was not to be trifled with. More importantly, The Xianxia Palace was a subordinate force of the Celestial Elephant Palace, which was one of the 7 supreme forces in the Starry Crescent Land. Yi Xing said indifferently, "I'm a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace." The Dark Moon Palace was one of the 7 supreme forces in the Starry Crescent Land. It was on the same level as the Celestial Elephant Palace. Whether it was Tang Bin or the Gu clan cultivators, they were all shocked when they heard Yi Xing say that he was a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace. The Starry Crescent Land was extremely vast, and the 7 4th-grade forces were high and mighty. It was not easy for cultivators of ordinary forces to meet a disciple of one of the 7 4th-grade forces. But now, there was a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace standing in front of them. How could they not be shocked? Tang Bin looked at Yi Xing, his gaze clearly showing signs of retreat. Although the Xianxia Palace was the strongest force in the Yuezhou, it could not be compared to the Dark Moon Palace. However, Tang Bin was also somewhat surprised. How could a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace know the Gu clan's young master, Gu Qingqian? Tang Bin cupped his fists and said, "So young master is a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace. Sorry for the disrespect. How may I address you?" Yi Xing said, "Xianxia. The Gu clan's young master, Gu Qingqian, is a good friend of mine. He saved my life before. Whoever dares to covet his position as the clan head is my enemy." Yi Xing had killed the disciples of the Xianxia Palace, the Dark Moon Palace, and the Demon Sealing Valley in the extraterritorial Starry Crescent Land. At that time, the disciples of other sects had seen it. The name Yi Xing might not be safe in the Starry Crescent Land, so Yi Xing had used a fake name. Yi Xing's name was Yi Rixing. The sun was Yang, so Yi Yangxing was Yi Yangxing. Tang Bin was surprised, but it was only for a moment. What kind of force was the Dark Moon Palace? Tang Bin did not believe that someone would dare to impersonate a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace. Especially after seeing Yi Xing's extraordinary bearing, Tang Bin dispelled the suspicion in his heart. He said, "Young Master Yi is right. Gu Qingqian inherits the position as the clan head. My star-plucking palace also supports this. Who dares to covet his position as the clan head? No one dares." Yi Xing waved his hand and said, "You can get lost now." Tang Bin's expression stiffened, but since he believed that Yi Xing was a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace, Tang Bin naturally did not dare to give him any face. He smiled and said, "Young Master Yi, I will leave now, leave now." As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Bin turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. Yi Xing's gaze turned towards Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu. His gaze was casual. However, Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu felt as if 2 rays of sword light had swept over, and their hearts trembled. At the same time, Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu knelt on the ground. At this moment, Gu Zongbei could no longer care about the pain in his hand. There was only fear in his heart as he said, "Young Master Yi, please spare my life. Spare my life." Tang Yu directly kowtowed to Yi Xing and said, "This lowly concubine had eyes but did not recognize Mount Tai. Young Master Yi, please forgive me. Young Master Yi, please forgive me." When Yi Xing announced his identity as a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace, even the Star-Plucking Palace's elder Tang Bin was scared witless. Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu were only 2-star venerables. In front of Yi Xing they were like ants. If Yi Xing wanted to kill them, he could easily kill them with a raise of his hand. How could they not be scared? This was especially true for Tang Yu. When Tang Bin arrived, she arrogantly threatened Yi Xing, saying that she would crush Yi Xing into smithereens and die without a proper burial. Now, when Tang Yu recalled her words, she wanted to slap her own mouth. Her heart was filled with fear, and she repeatedly kowtowed to Yi Xing. Although Yi Xing looked down on Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu, he was not the person involved. They were fighting for Gu Qingqian's position as the family head, and the person they wanted to harm was also Gu Qingqian. Yi Xing was only here to help. As for Gu Zongbei and Tang Yu's life and death, it was up to Gu Qingqian to decide. This was because the one who would remain as the family head was Gu Qingqian, not Yi Xing. Yi Xing looked at Gu Qingqian and said, "Whether they live or die, you decide for yourself. You are now the family head of the Gu family. If you want them to die, just give the order and they will die." Chapter 725. Xing Haidong, Xianyi, and Feng Qingze were the disciples of Star Elephant Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Ceiling Valley respectively. Among the 7 superpowers of Starry Crescent Land, Star Elephant Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Ceiling Valley had the most interactions, and many of their disciples were friends. Xing Haidong, Xianyi, and Feng Qingze were about the same age, 37 or 38 years old. Their cultivation bases were at the peak of the 9th level of astral reaching realm, and there wasn't much of a difference in strength. They were all at the peak of half-step kings, and their personalities were quite similar. Therefore, they decided to come to the Sky Flame Ancient Land to train together. The three's cultivation bases were at the peak of the 9th level of astral reaching realm, and they were only half a step away from breaking through to Star Sea realm and becoming kings. Their first goal in coming to the Sky Flame Ancient Land was to find the heart-burning fruit. Now, they finally came across a heart-burning fruit tree that was about to ripen. The three were naturally very happy. The three's gazes fell on Yi Xing, a 7-star reverend. Xing Haidong saw through Yi Xing's cultivation base and smiled disdainfully. He took a step forward and said, "Kid, these 3 heart-burning fruits aren't something you can touch. You can scram." Xianyi and Feng Qingze also didn't put Yi Xing in their eyes. Xianyi happily said, "There are 3 heart-burning fruits on this tree. 1 for me, 1 for Brother Haidong, and 1 for Brother Qingze." Ha! Feng Qingze smiled and nodded. Yi Xing recognized their origins from their attire. Yi Xing had killed many disciples of Celestial Elephant Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Ceiling Valley in the Outer Realm Star Continent, so he naturally recognized the insignia of these 3 sections. Yi Xing didn't want to attract trouble, but trouble came knocking on his door. The heart-burning fruit was very useful to him. He was the one who discovered it first and waited here for it to ripen. But now, he had to leave with his tail between his legs. This was something Yi Xing couldn't do. Although Yi Xing's divine dragon essence blood had been exhausted, and he had lost a powerful trump card, as long as he didn't encounter a Star Sea Realm king, he didn't fear any martial artist below the Star Sea Realm. These 3 were all half-step kings. Even if they were the peak half-step kings, Yi Xing didn't put them in his eyes. Yi Xing's expression was calm. His gaze swept across the 3 of them and he said, "This place? I came here first." Xianyi and Feng Qingze looked at each other with a smirk. Xing Haidong glared at him and shouted, "I told you to get lost." Yi Xing was only a 7-star supremacy, while the 3 of them were half-step enlightened masters. Naturally, they did not think much of Yi Xing. Not only that, all 3 of them were disciples of the 7 strongest forces. Even if Yi Xing was also a disciple of one of the 7 strongest forces, the 3 of them were certain that he wasn't from the Astral Elephant Palace, Mystic Moon Hall, or Devil Ceiling Valley. Yi Xing's gaze turned cold. The pimp was right. Astral Elephant Palace's martial artists were indeed the most domineering. Although the 3 of them didn't think much of him, this Astral Elephant Palace's disciple was the most arrogant. Yi Xing looked at Xing Haidong with disdain and snorted, "Who do you think you are? How dare you shout in front of me?" Xianyi laughed strangely and said, "This kid is quite arrogant. Brother Haidong, it seems like he doesn't think much of your Astral Elephant Palace." Xing Haidong was furious. His killing intent soared as he looked at Yi Xing. He shouted, "You're courting death." As he spoke, Xing Haidong suddenly attacked. He slapped his palm towards Yi Xing's head. If this palm landed, Yi Xing's head would definitely explode. Yi Xing's expression was cold as he punched out. The momentum of fire circulated, and his fist burned with terrifying might. Boom! Fist and palm collided. There was a loud explosion. Yi Xing's figure was like a mountain, and he didn't retreat even half a step. Xing Haidong, on the other hand, was startled and took several steps back. Xianyi and Feng Qingze were shocked. They never thought that a 7-star supremacy would have such strength. The 2 of them looked at each other and revealed vigilant looks. They erupted with terrifying auras that locked onto Yi Xing. Although the 2 of them didn't attack, as long as Xing Haidong couldn't win, the 2 of them would definitely attack Yi Xing. After Xing Haidong's shock, he was furious. His strength was outstanding among martial artists of the same level. Few could contend with him. Today, he was actually forced to retreat by a 7-star supremacy. In his opinion, this was simply a great humiliation. Xing Haidong immediately used his astrology. It was an extremely high-grade water astrology. As the water astrology fell, Xing Haidong's strength soared. At the same time, Yixing also used his flame astrology. In the heavenly flame ancient land, the most abundant energy in the world was fire origin energy. The flame astrology complemented the nearby flames, and its power covered the sky. Compared to the two, Yixing's aura firmly suppressed Xing Haidong. Sweeping through the ages, Xing Haidong let out a furious roar and used his ultimate move. Surging water yuan qi gathered in his palm and struck towards Yixing. In an instant, the water origin energy rushed over like a wave, wanting to sweep away everything in front of it. The dark crow bow instantly appeared in Yixing's hand. Facing this powerful palm, Yixing drew with the bow. Dark origin energy gathered and formed a dark vortex. Xing Haidong's palm was completely turned into nothingness. Bang! At the same time, Yixing gently pulled the dark crow bow and released it instantly. A wave of starlight suddenly shot out. The starlight wave was as fast as light and rushed in front of Xing Haidong in an instant. The sharp aura made Xing Haidong shudder. He was shocked and quickly used astral energy to protect his body. At the same time, he quickly retreated. When Xianyi and Feng Qingze saw this, they were shocked. At the same time, they attacked. Xianyi pointed out a pitch-black astral finger. Feng Qingze formed a seal with both hands, forming a powerful sealing force that shrouded Yixing Nine Heavens' astral travel technique. Yixing quickly retreated. At the same time, a beam of starlight shot into the sky and turned into a black vortex. He had used the black hole astrology. The dark world instantly descended and the three opponents were plunged into darkness. Yixing avoided the pincer attack of Xianyi and Feng Qingze. Another 3 beams of starlight shot into the sky. Yixing used the Sagittarius astrology and pulled the dark crow bow. Xianyi and Feng Qingze also used their astrology. One was an extreme shadow astrology, and the other was an extreme earth astrology. The light of these two astrology was not strong and could not reach the darkness caused by the black hole astrology. "Oh no! Come to me," Xianyi exclaimed. Although his shadow astrology could not dispel the darkness of the black hole astrology, the darkness could not block his vision. Feng Qingze and Xing Haidong rushed to Xianyi. At this moment, a starlight arrow shot out. Yixing's eyes were filled with killing intent. The starlight arrow changed direction in the void and locked onto Xing Haidong's throat. Xianyi immediately used astral energy to inform Xing Haidong of the change in the arrow. At the same time, he pointed a finger at the arrow. In the darkness, Xing Haidong's transformation was not as good as usual. He could not block the attack of the starlight arrow. However, the arrow was hit by Xianyi's finger. It was slightly deflected and shot into Xing Haidong's shoulder. "Ah!" Xing Haidong screamed. Chapter 726. Xianyi and Feng Qingze immediately rushed in front of Xing Haidong. With one on the left and one on the right, they grabbed Xing Haidong and rushed into the sea of flames. The black profound bow let out a loud sound, and a resplendent beam of light shot out. Another starlight arrow shot toward the three. Yixing's strength erupted. He could even contend against a 1-star king. How terrifying was the power of the starlight arrow! Just its aura alone caused the three's hearts to tremble. However, the three's strength was also extraordinary. They were all peak half-step kings. If they joined hands, they could barely contend against a 1-star king. Now, the three had gathered together. Moreover, Xianyi wasn't affected by the world of darkness. Under his command, the three used their full strength to block the second arrow. Then, the three's figures flashed out of the world of darkness like lightning. Their hearts were filled with fear. They had never seen or even heard of such a powerful 7-star venerable lord. Even the Big Dipper Sword sect's monstrous sword genius Feng Xiaoxiao couldn't have such strength when he was a 7-star venerable lord, right? The three inwardly thought, incomparably shocked. The heart-burning fruit was about to ripen. Yi Xing withdrew his astral projection and didn't chase after the three. The three had been taught a lesson and probably wouldn't come again. Moreover, with the three of them joining hands, it wouldn't be easy for Yi Xing to kill them. Yi Xing continued to wait beside the heart-burning fruit tree. After another 2 hours, the 3 heart-burning fruits had finally ripened and emitted an enchanting fragrance. Yi Xing plucked the 3 heart-burning fruits and left the tree. The flames on the heart-burning fruits disappeared, revealing 3 scarlet fruits. Yi Xing placed them in a medicine box and stored them in his spatial ring. Then, Yi Xing continued to advance into the depths of the heavenly flame ancient land. The deeper he went, the hotter the flames became. Yi Xing could feel them. Yi Xing used his fire aura to control the surrounding fire yuan qi. Some of the flames that were fatal to low-step kings were completely blocked by Yi Xing. When Yi Xing also felt the scorching heat under the protection of the grand momentum of fire, he knew that the flames he was in had already reached a level that could burn a mid-step king. This was already the limit of how deep he could go into the heavenly flame ancient land. It's here. Yi Xing stopped in his tracks, activating the already active Starfire seed in his dantian. The star flame seed suddenly produced a huge suction force, like a whale sucking in water. The pure flame energy in the flames around Yi Xing gathered towards Yi Xing's body and was absorbed by the star flame seed. Black hole astrology. At the same time, Yi Xing also used the black hole astral form. A massive black vortex hung high in the sky and slowly rotated, producing a massive devouring power that devoured the fire essence in the surrounding flames. The stellar fire seed absorbed the fire essence to increase the fire seed's grade. The black hole astral form devoured the fire essence to increase the fire astral form's power. A large amount of fire essence was devoured by the black hole astral form into the space between his eyebrows. Yi Xing's fire astral form gradually grew stronger. Whether it was increasing the star flame seed's grade or the fire astral form's power, both were processes that required a long time of accumulation. Yi Xing sat quietly in the sea of flames, calmly guarding his heart. He was constantly absorbing the fire essence. Time slowly passed. Half a month later, the star flame seed suddenly erupted with a terrifying aura, its power explosively increasing. In the blink of an eye, this aura calmed down, and the star flame seed stopped absorbing the fire essence. Yi Xing inspected the star flame seed and found that it had indeed made a qualitative breakthrough. It seemed that the surrounding flames were no longer of any use to it. If he wanted it to continue increasing its grade, he would have to absorb foreign flames that could threaten quasi-gods. Yi Xing rejoiced at the star flame seed's breakthrough. This would be enough to refine the death qi in the medial grade profound grade corpse jades. The black hole astral form above Yi Xing had already dissipated a few days ago. Yi Xing's fire astral form had already been strengthened to its limit and could no longer be improved. The flames here could not help it break through to the sage grade. Yi Xing stood up and walked through the flames. With the star flame seed protecting him, the surrounding flames could no longer harm him. Xiao Chen walked through the flames and arrived at a valley that was not covered by flames. He found a flat area and sat down. With a wave of his hand, he took out the medial grade profound grade corpse jades. Even kings would find it difficult to enter the depths of the heavenly flame ancient land. These flames were a natural barrier. Yi Xing refined the death qi in the corpse jades here and suddenly made a breakthrough. Yi Xing drove the star flame seed and separated a strand of fire. He injected it into the corpse jades and carefully burned the death qi in the corpse jades. Before long, the death qi in the corpse jades had been burned clean. Yi Xing then picked up the second one. After all the death qi in the corpse jades had been cleansed, Yi Xing put away the star flame seed. Looking at the corpse jades before him, the corners of his mouth involuntarily curled up. These corpse jades could be directly refined and absorbed, allowing one's cultivation to break through. They could be called priceless treasures. Yi Xing put away the profound grade 4 corpse jades. He was currently at the 7th level of the astral reaching realm. He would need profound grade 5 corpse jades at the very least to be useful for his cultivation. One after another, Xian rank 5th grade corpse jades were refined by Yi Xing. Yi Xing's cultivation rose rapidly. Speaking of which, profound grade 6 corpse jades were the best for Yi Xing's cultivation. However, once Yi Xing broke through to the 8th star Reverend Lord realm, profound grade 5 corpse jades would have no effect on him. Therefore, although it was a bit wasteful to use profound grade 5 corpse jades for cultivation, he couldn't care less about it. Raising his cultivation was the most important thing. In any case, Yi Xing had a lot of profound grade 5 corpse jades. As for the profound grade 6 corpse jades, he would save them for when he broke through to the 8th star Reverend Lord realm. 10 days later, Yi Xing refined 7 profound grade 5 corpse jades, and his cultivation broke through to the 8th level of the astral reaching realm. Yi Xing continued to refine the profound grade 6 corpse jades. After another 10 days, Yi Xing refined 7 profound grade 6 corpse jades, and his cultivation had already stabilized to the peak of the 8th level of the astral reaching realm. There was only 1 profound grade 6 corpse jade left in his hand. Yi Xing gritted his teeth and took out the last one. If these corpse jades were to be sold, each one would fetch a sky-high price. However, Yi Xing understood that personal cultivation was the most important thing. As long as he could make a breakthrough, it would be worth it no matter how many corpse jades he used. One day later, a surging aura erupted from Yi Xing's body. The heavens didn't disappoint the faithful. After refining all 8 profound grade 6 corpse jades, Yi Xing's cultivation finally broke through to the 9th level of the astral reaching realm. The 9th star Reverend Lord realm was already the highest realm of the astral reaching realm. What he needed to do next was to consolidate his cultivation and then charge towards the astral sea realm. Breaking through to the 9th star Reverend Lord realm at the age of 23, Yi Xing's face was full of excitement. Chapter 727. After staying in the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land for more than a month, Yi Xing had not only strengthened his fire astrology, but his star fire seed had also improved by a grade. His comprehension of the grand momentum of fire had also improved greatly. Yi Xing decided to continue comprehending the grand momentum of fire in the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land. He wanted to comprehend the grand momentum of fire to perfection in one go. In just half a month, Yi Xing had achieved his goal. Among the 3 grand momentums of heaven and earth, the grand momentum of fire was the first to reach perfection. The grand momentum of fire had reached perfection. This allowed Yi Xing to become more familiar with controlling flames. He could draw on more fire yuan qi and his strength had increased significantly. The Heavenly Flame Ancient Land was not suitable for cultivating the grand power of wind and the grand power of darkness. Without a suitable place to cultivate them, although they were only 1 step away from consummation, it would not be easy. It would be hard to make a breakthrough within a short time. Yi Xing left the Heavenly Flame Ancient Land and headed to Governor Yu's Gu clan in Azure City. Next, he was prepared to head to the Big Dipper Sword sect to look for Feng Xiaoxiao. He would pass by Evergreen City. He had left the Gu clan for 2 months and could take a look at how Gu Qingchen was handling the Gu clan after becoming the clan master. After leaving the Gu clan, Yi Xing flew rapidly. After a few hours, he arrived at Evergreen City. Yi Xing flew directly above the Gu clan and landed on the square in front of the clan master's residence. "Who is it?" Seeing Yi Xing descend from the sky, a guard ran over. Among the Gu clan, only the upper echelons had seen Yi Xing in the ancestral hall. The rest of the people had seen Yi Xing before and did not recognize him. Yi Xing said, "I am here to see your clan master, Gu Qingchen." The guard looked at Yi Xing strangely and said, "The clan master of the Gu clan is called Gu Zongbei. Young master, you have found the wrong person. Gu Qingchen is no longer the clan master." Yi Xing's expression changed. Gu Zongbei had become the clan master again? Then what had happened in the Gu clan in the 2 months that he had been away? Whoosh, Yi Xing didn't speak anymore. His body flashed like a phantom, and he entered the family head's mansion in front. Gu Songbei and Tang Yu were currently taking a stroll in the backyard with proud smiles on their faces. The two of them originally thought that they wouldn't have any status in the Gu family for the rest of their lives and could only lower their heads. However, they didn't expect that luck would come and they couldn't stop it. Gu Qingxin had only become the family head for a month before he met with a calamity, and the position of the family head landed on Gu Songbei. Gu Qingxin has been taken to Xianxia Palace. Gu Jinyuan and Gu Jinyang have been killed. From now on, no one can shake my position. Gu Songbei was elated and refreshed. Although one of his hands was crippled, it didn't affect his mood at all. Gu. Suddenly, an ice-cold voice sounded from behind Gu Songbei. Gu Songbei and Tang Yu were both shocked. The voice came from behind them, but they had no idea that there was someone behind them. They were both two-star venerables. The person who had come was able to approach them silently. It was obvious that his cultivation was much higher than theirs. The two of them immediately turned around. When they saw Yi Xing, they were shocked and instinctively felt fear in their hearts. Yi Yangxing. Gu Songbei's voice trembled. Yi Xing looked coldly at the two of them and said, "I told you before that if you dare to covet the position of the family head again, you will definitely die. It seems that you have completely ignored my words." Gu Songbei immediately shook his head like a rattle drum and said, No, because Gu Qingxin was taken away by Xianxia Palace, the Gu family no longer has a family head. The elders elected me as the family head. I didn't covet the position of the family head. Yi Xing's gaze was like a sword as he said, "Why did Xianxia Palace take Gu Qingxin away?" Gu Songbei said, "Disciples of Xianxia Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Sealing Valley came together with the experts of Xianxia Palace. Yi Yangxing, you pretended to be a disciple of Dark Moon Palace. They were very angry and took Gu Qingxin away. They also wanted me to tell you that if you are looking for Gu Qingxin, go to Xianxia Palace." Yi Xing immediately clenched his fists. The aura in his body was like ignited gunpowder, about to explode. Xianxia Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Sealing Valley again. Killing intent exploded in Yi Xing's heart. Gu Songbei and Tang Yu felt the terrifying aura from Yi Xing. Their expressions were filled with fear as they retreated. Gu Songbei said, "This has nothing to do with me. Yi Yangxing, if you want to find Gu Qingxin, go to Xianxia Palace. Don't take your anger out on the Gu family." Yi Xing stared coldly at Gu Songbei and shouted, "Is it really none of your business?" As soon as he said that, two green vortexes suddenly appeared in Yi Xing's eyes. Although the Eye of Clear Cloud was only a top-grade spiritual eye technique, Yi Xing was now a 9th star supremacy. His mental energy was not weaker than a king's. Naturally, he could use the Eye of Clear Cloud to deal with Gu Songbei. A layer of mist instantly appeared in Gu Songbei's eyes. It quickly turned into two vortexes. It was Supremacy Tang Bin who supported me to become the head of the Gu family. Gu Jinyuan and Gu Jinyang opposed, so I ordered them to be killed. Gu Qingxin has been captured and taken to the Xianxia Palace. He will definitely die. Yi Yangxing has also gone to the Xianxia Palace. Only death awaits him. From today onwards, the Gu family will listen to the orders of me, Gu Songbei. My position as the head of the family was supported by the Tang family. In the future, I will take out half of the Gu family's annual harvest as a tribute to the Tang family. Any major matters in the family will be decided by my wife, Tang Yu. Tang Yu stood at the side and looked at the dazed Gu Songbei. Her eyes were filled with fear. Gu Songbei had already said all this. How could he still be alive? Whoosh, Tang Yu's figure flashed and she immediately escaped. Yi Xing snorted and waved his hand. Astral energy shot out and turned into an arrow. It instantly caught up with Tang Yu and killed her with one arrow. At this moment, Gu Songbei was still in a daze. Yi Xing used his hand as a knife and swept it out. The astral energy was like a blade and cut off Gu Songbei's head. This adulterous pair had both died. Xianxia Palace, Tang Bin, and the disciples of Demon Sealing Valley, Darkeen Palace, and Star Elephant Palace. Since you want me to go to Xianxia Palace, fine. Just you wait. Yi Xing's eyes revealed a dangerous aura as he murmured. His body suddenly shot up into the sky and flew in the direction of Xianxia Palace. Xianxia Palace was the #1 sect in Yuezhou. It was a 3-star force. Among the 3-star forces, Xianxia Palace was the weakest. They only had one 1-star king. A king had a lifespan of 1,000 years. The king of Xianxia Palace was only 600 years old. He could live for another 300 years. As long as this king did not die, Xianxia Palace could be classified as a 3-star force. If it was a powerful 3-star force, Yi Xing could not afford to provoke it. However, a 3-star force with only one 1-star king was not a threat to Yi Xing. Although he no longer had the divine dragon blood essence in his body, he was now a 9th-star venerable lord. Compared to when he was a 7th-star venerable lord, he was many times stronger. When he was a 7th-star venerable lord, Yi Xing could fight against a 1-star king without using the divine dragon blood essence. But Yi Xing naturally did not care about a 1-star king. Chapter 728. Yi Xing was still a few hundred miles away from the Xianxia Palace when he used the dark momentum to hide his tracks. This was his first time here. Although he did not think much of the Xianxia Palace's ruler, he would not barge in recklessly. After all, the Xianxia Palace was a 3-star faction. If the faction had a level 5 formation, Yi Xing would not be able to handle it. Sneaking outside the Xianxia Palace, Yi Xing scanned the place with his super brain. He was overjoyed to find out that the Xianxia Palace's formation was only a level 4 one. It seemed that the Xianxia Palace was indeed a weak 3-star faction. They did not even have a level 5 formation. This meant that Yi Xing had nothing to fear. However, Yi Xing still did not show himself. Even though the Xianxia Palace was nothing to worry about, the Xianxia Palace was a subordinate force of the Celestial Elephant Palace. If the Xianxia Palace encountered danger that they could not handle, the Celestial Elephant Palace would most likely send reinforcements. Therefore, Yi Xing still had to destroy the Xianxia Palace's teleportation array. This way, the Astral Elephant Palace's martial artists would not be able to reach the Xianxia Palace directly. It wouldn't be a problem for Yi Xing to create havoc here. At the entrance of the Xianxia Palace, 2 exalted masters stood guard on the left and right. At this moment, a Xianxia Palace disciple came out. The formation was opened. After the Xianxia Palace disciple left, the formation began to close again. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past. The guard on the left rubbed his neck. Where did this wind come from? It's so sudden. The guard on the right glanced at him. Why do you care? In that instant, Yi Xing took advantage of the opening of the formation and rushed in. Although the 2 guards were exalted masters in the astral realm, Yi Xing was too fast for them to notice. Yi Xing hid his tracks and looked into the distance. Using his super brain, he scanned the layout of the Xianxia Palace and found the location of the teleportation formation. The Xianxia Palace's teleportation formation was a level 5 formation. It could send people millions of miles away. The teleportation formation could only allow people to travel through the void. Be it level 4 or level 5 teleportation arrays, they did not have a strong defense. Even an enlightened being would be able to destroy them. Yi Xing appeared in the distance, took out the black crow bow, and aimed at the teleportation array. The place where Yi Xing had appeared was rather remote. Naturally, the martial practitioners of Star Picking Palace did not discover him. In the next instant, a brilliant arrow of starlight shot out. Boom! The starlight arrow accurately struck the level 5 teleportation array, creating a loud explosion that shook the ground. The teleportation array was shattered into pieces by this arrow. The sudden explosion caused all the Star Plucking Palace martial artists to be flabbergasted. In the Star Plucking Hall, the palace master of the Star Plucking Palace and the other elders were entertaining 3 esteemed guests from the Star Elephant Palace, the Dark-Een Palace, and the Devil Ceiling Valley. If Yi Xing were here, he would definitely recognize these 3 honored guests. They were the 3 people he had met in the Heavenly Flame ancient land. More than a month ago, Xing Haidong, Xianyi, and Xianxia had come out of the heavenly flame ancient land. In the end, they had not found the ripe heart-burning fruit and had been very unhappy. After leaving the heavenly flame ancient land, Xing Haidong had brought Xianyi and Xianxia to Star Plucking Palace to rest temporarily. The Star Plucking Palace naturally treated the three of them like they were their ancestors. One day, when they were hosting a banquet for the three of them, Tangbin told Xianyi, a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace, that he had met a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace in the Gu family. A young 7-star supremacy can't be a nobody in my Dark Yin Palace. However, I have never heard of Xianxia. It's obvious that this person is not a disciple of the Dark Yin Palace, but an impostor, Xianyi had said at the time. Tangbin was furious when he heard this. The reason he had acted subservient in front of Yixing was not because he was afraid of Yixing. As a 7-star supremacy, why would he be afraid of Yixing? What he was truly afraid of was the Dark Yin Palace. Only now did Tangbin realize that the Dark Yin Palace disciple he had been afraid of was an impostor. How could he not be furious? He immediately exaggerated Yixing's story in front of Xianyi, saying that Yixing had relied on the reputation of the Dark Yin Palace to strut around and act arrogantly. Tangbin's words successfully aroused Xianyi's hostility. The three of them had come from the heavenly flame ancient land, so they were all furious. Naturally, they wanted to deal with the impostor Yixing. How dare he impersonate a disciple of the Dark Yin Palace? Brother Xianyi, let's go together and skin him alive. The most arrogant and despotic Xing Donghai was the first to suggest that they go to the Gu family to cause trouble for Yixing. Thus, Xing Donghai led the three of them to the Gu family. At that time, Yixing had already left. The three of them stayed at the Gu family for a few days, but Yixing showed no signs of returning. Thus, they captured Gu Qingchen and brought him to Star Plucking Palace. They also passed down a message that if Yixing returned and wanted to find Gu Qingchen, he could go to Star Plucking Palace. In these few days, Gu Zongbei, with Tangbin's support, became the family head once again and killed Gu Jinyang and Gu Jinyuan. Suddenly, a loud explosion rang out, causing the earth to tremble. Everyone in the Star Plucking Palace was startled and rushed out of the palace. At this moment, Yixing had already flown into the sky and swept his gaze around. Seeing a large group of high-level astral-reaching realm venerables rushing out of the palace, he turned his gaze and roared, "Where is Gu Qingchen? Hand him over, or I'll destroy your Star Plucking Palace today." He had searched for Gu Qingchen a moment ago, but didn't find him. The Star Plucking Palace covered a large area. If Yixing had to search for him bit by bit, he would have wasted a lot of time. Naturally, it would be faster to make them hand him over. As soon as Yixing's voice fell, his expression changed slightly. He saw Xing Donghai, Xianyi, and Xianxia. Xing Donghai, Xianyi, and Xianxia's expressions changed greatly. They had never imagined that the person pretending to be a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace was actually Yixing. The Star Plucking Palace master was also a half-step king. He didn't know that Xing Donghai, Xianyi, and Xianxia had suffered at the hands of Yixing. What big guts! Do you think you can destroy the Star Plucking Palace just because you want to? If you want Gu Qingchen, if you kneel down and beg, I might let you meet him. As soon as Tangbin saw Yixing, the anger in his heart finally found a place to vent. He roared, "Yixing, you dare to pretend to be a disciple of the Dark Moon Palace and deceive me? Today I'll tear you to shreds." Tangbin originally wanted to say that he would tear Yixing into pieces, but his voice suddenly stopped, and his expression changed. "You're actually a 9th-star venerable lord?" Tangbin pointed at Yixing, his voice filled with astonishment. Only now did he realize that Yixing was no longer a 7th-star venerable lord. Tangbin naturally didn't believe that Yixing could break through from a 7th-star venerable lord to a 9th-star venerable lord in 2 months. Therefore, he believed that Yixing had concealed his cultivation base in the Gu clan. When he thought about how Yixing had been a 9th-star venerable lord back in the Gu clan, killing a 7th-star venerable lord like him would be as easy as flipping his hand, Tangbin felt a lingering fear. The other party was a 9th-star venerable lord. How would Tangbin dare to say anything more? Would he rush up and tear Yixing into pieces? If he rushed up, he would probably be torn into pieces within a breath's time. Chapter 729. After being reminded by Tang Bin, Xing Haidong, Xian Yi, and Feng Qingze also noticed that Yi Xing's cultivation was actually at the 9th level of astral reaching realm. This made the three feel relieved. No wonder he's so powerful. It turns out that he's a 9th star venerable lord. He deliberately hid his cultivation in the heavenly flame ancient land. Bastard! After leaving the heavenly flame ancient land, the three felt a lingering fear in their hearts. A 7th star venerable lord's strength had simply broken the record of the starry crescent continent. It was too heaven-defying and unbelievable. The three thought that Yi Xing had concealed his cultivation and deceived them. They were furious. However, they didn't think that even if Yi Xing was a 9th star venerable lord, would the three of them put Yi Xing in their eyes? Absolutely not. The three of them were at the peak of the 9th level of astral reaching realm, and their strength was at the peak of half-step king realm. Unless they were facing a king, they wouldn't be afraid of anyone below the king realm. Therefore, even if Yi Xing was a 9th star venerable lord, they would still arrogantly tell Yi Xing to scram and snatch the heart-burning fruit. The three of them had deeply experienced Yi Xing's strength in the heavenly flame ancient land. Xing Haidong had almost died in Yi Xing's hands, so he was very afraid of Yi Xing. Palace head Qin, quickly ask your sect's old ancestor to come out of seclusion. Xing Haidong, Xian Yi, and Feng Qingze simultaneously transmitted their voices to Chen Nan, the palace master of the Zhaixing Palace. The palace head's expression froze. Even if Yi Xing was a 9th star venerable lord, he didn't put him in his eyes. He hadn't expected that the three half-step kings, Xing Haidong, Xian Yi, and Feng Qingze, would transmit their voices at the same time, asking him to ask his sect's old ancestor, who was also the only king of the palace, Star-Plucking King. Three young masters, do you recognize this person? The palace head asked. Sus? Ask my ass. The three cursed in their hearts. Xing Haidong roared, quickly ask Star-Plucking King, or we'll all be dead. On the other side, Yi Xing had already taken out the black bow. A terrifying aura erupted from his body as he said, "It doesn't matter who you invite. Today, all three of you will die." Back in the heavenly flame ancient land, Yi Xing had only been a 7-star supremacy. If he encountered a king realm expert, he would be in big trouble. Therefore, when Xing Haidong, Xian Yi, and Feng Qingze had fled, Yi Xing hadn't pursued them. After all, if he provoked a king realm expert, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. But now, the situation was different. Yi Xing was a 9th star exalt lord, so he didn't fear ordinary kings at all. Moreover, if he was determined to flee, then even a mid-rank king might not be able to kill him. What's more, Yi Xing would set out for the Big Dipper Sword sect after leaving Star Plucking Palace. At that time, how could Star Elephant Palace, Darkeen Palace, or Devil Ceiling Valley do anything to him? Therefore, if he encountered Xing Haidong, Xian Yi, and Feng Qingze again, whether it was because of the enmity in the heavenly flame ancient land or because of Gu Qingxin's hatred, he would kill them. Pulling back the black bow, a starlight arrow instantly condensed and locked onto Xing Haidong. Xing Haidong's hair stood on end as his heart jumped. Although Yi Xing hadn't used his astrology, as a half-step king, his senses were extremely sharp. He immediately sensed that the danger he was facing now was more than 10 times greater than when he was in the heavenly flame ancient land. At that time, could he really be a 7-star supremacy? This thought flashed through Xing Haidong's mind. Die! As this thought flashed through Xing Haidong's mind, Yi Xing coldly shouted. Whoosh! The starlight arrow immediately left the bowstring, carrying a faint layer of flames. This was the Great Circle of Fire aura. Although it didn't seem like much, its quality was extremely high, and its might was extremely terrifying. Save me! Xing Haidong screamed, his expression turning into one of fright as he rapidly retreated. At the same time, his astrology soared into the sky as he circulated his astral energy. Xing Haidong's strength erupted to the limit as he sent out 2 palms. The people of the Star Plucking Palace couldn't react in time. Who would have thought that Yixing would dare to take the initiative in the face of so many experts? Only Xianyi and Feng Qingze knew how terrifying Yixing was. Seeing Yixing draw his bow, they knew that Yixing was really going to make a move. The two of them simultaneously attacked Yixing. Xing Haidong defended with all his strength while Xianyi and Feng Qingze attacked Yixing. The three of them attacked and defended. Logically speaking, Yixing was only a 9-star supremacy and shouldn't be a match for them. However, the result was, Xing Haidong's astral palm was instantly pierced through by the starlight arrow. Then, the starlight arrow's momentum didn't decrease as it flashed like a shooting star and shot into Xing Haidong's head. Xing Haidong's head exploded, turning into a bloody mist. He died instantly. At this time, Xianyi and Feng Qingze's attacks had already reached Yixing. They saw Yixing use his bow as a weapon and sweep it out. The black bow carried with it a terrifying flame aura. The power of a sweep was like a landslide, instantly shattering Xianyi and Feng Qingze's attacks. This attack, which was enough to sweep away ordinary half-step kings, was easily destroyed by Yixing's attack. The hearts of the star-plucking palace martial artists fiercely skipped a beat. Especially the upper echelons of the star-plucking palace, their expressions changed greatly. Xing Haidong was a disciple of the Celestial Elephant Palace. Dying in the star-plucking palace was definitely a disaster. It's over, it's over. The star-plucking palace master's face was pale as if the sky had been trampled on. If the Celestial Elephant Palace blamed him, the star-plucking palace wouldn't be able to bear the wrath of the Celestial Elephant Palace. On the side, the 7-star supremacy Tang Bin was so frightened that his legs were trembling. He never imagined that he would provoke such a terrifying existence. Whoosh! At this time, Yixing drew his bow again and shot out a second arrow. This time, his target was the Dark Moon Palace disciple, Xianyi. Only when Yixing easily dispelled Xianyi and Feng Qingze's attacks did they realize that Yixing's strength was much stronger than when they had met him in the Sky Flame Ancient Land. Clearly, Yixing hadn't hidden his cultivation base in the Sky Flame Ancient Land. Back then, he was indeed a 7-star supremacy. Now, Yixing was already a 9-star supremacy. His strength was naturally more than 10 times stronger. By the time the two understood, it was already too late. Yixing's starlight arrow wasn't something they could block. Peng Xianye's blocking and dodging were futile. Like Xing Haidong, his head was struck and exploded into a bloody mist. He died. You weren't hiding your cultivation base? Feng Qingze's expression was horrified as he flew toward the entrance of the star-plucking palace. Whoosh! Yixing shot out another arrow. Before Feng Qingze could reach the entrance, his head was blown apart. He followed Xing Haidong and Xianye's footsteps to the Yellow Springs Road. In just 3 breaths of time, 3 half-step kings from the Celestial Elephant Palace, the Dark Moon Palace, and the Demon Sealing Valley were all killed by Yixing's arrows. The warriors of the Star-Plucking Palace looked at Yixing with fear and trepidation. The Star-Plucking Palace master glanced at Tang Bin, wishing he could strangle him to death. What kind of disaster had he brought to the Star-Plucking Palace? Chapter 730. The palace master's heart was bleeding. The disciples of the 3 superpowers had died in the Xiaxing Palace. If the Celestial Elephant Palace, the Darkeen Palace, and the Demon Sealing Valley wanted to punish him, he would die 10,000 times. At this moment, the only hope the palace master of the Star-Plucking Palace had was the old ancestor of the Star-Plucking Palace, the Star-Plucking King. If the Star-Plucking King was able to capture Yixing, he would be able to answer to the 3 great sections. Otherwise, even if Yixing did not destroy the Xiaxing Palace, the Xiaxing Palace would still face a great disaster. Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from a mountain peak in the distance. The might of a king swept over in a mighty manner. The Xiaxing King finally received the palace master's message and came out of closed-door cultivation. An old man in green immediately flew into the sky. He stepped in the air and covered 10 miles with each step. In just a breath, he appeared above the Xiaxing Palace. Who dares to be so presumptuous in the Xiaxing Palace? The Xianxia king roared furiously, his voice rippling like waves. Although Xing Haidong and the other two had asked the palace master to ask the Xianxia king to come out of closed-door cultivation, the palace master was confused at that time. He did not know how terrifying Yixing was. Later, Yixing shot Xing Haidong's head with an arrow. Only then did the Xianxia palace realize how terrifying an enemy Yixing was. They quickly asked the Xianxia king for help through the speed communication pearl. The Xianxia king saw the message and came out of closed-door cultivation in just 2 breaths. However, in just 2 breaths, Xianyi and Feng Qingze were killed by Yixing's arrow. The Xianxia king only received the palace master's message for help. He did not know that Xing Haidong, Xianyi, and Feng Qingze had all died. Therefore he was still calm. Ancestor were in big trouble, big trouble. Young Master Xing, Young Master Xian, and Young Master Feng were all killed by Xianxia. The Xianxia palace is in big trouble. The Xianxia palace master immediately came to the Xianxia king's side and wailed. The Xianxia king's expression changed drastically. He exclaimed, "What?" Even though he was a king, he still felt like the world was spinning around him. In the star-plucking palace, he was the supreme ancestor, the only king. However, in front of the 3 behemoths of the Star Elephant Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Devil Ceiling Valley, he, as a 1-star king, was nothing but a fart. Even Xing Haidong, Xianyi, and Feng Qingze were already half-step kings at such a young age. In the future, they would most likely become kings, and their status would be above his. Now, all 3 of them had died in the Star-Plucking Palace. The Star-Plucking Palace master was right. The Star-Plucking Palace was in deep trouble. King Xianxia was so angry that his body was trembling. His gaze landed on Yixing, and it was as sharp as a knife. You actually dared to kill them?" Yixing held the dark crow bow in his hand. Facing the star-plucking monarch's king's pressure, Yixing felt as if he was bathing in the spring breeze. Yixing said coldly, "So what if I killed them? If they don't hand her over, I'll continue to kill them until they hand her over." "You're courting death." King Xianxia was furious. With a roar, his figure flashed and arrived in front of Yixing. His palms blossomed with resplendent radiance as he slapped towards Yixing. King Xianxia's famous martial skill, Star-Plucking Hand. Once used, his 2 hands would be as tough as Xian weapons, containing terrifying might. It could even break Xian weapons easily. Yixing clenched his right hand into a fist in the face of Star-Plucking King's attack. A faint layer of flames enveloped his fist as he punched out. King Xianxia snorted coldly in his heart. A 9th-star venerable lord dared to face him head-on. He was truly courting death. Boom! The fist and palm collided, and a loud explosion resounded. Terrifying chi waves spread out in all directions, instantly spreading out to 1,000 meters away. In King Xianxia's eyes, a mere 9th-star venerable lord would be able to shatter his fist and send him flying with a single palm. However, Yixing did not even take half a step back in the midst of the terrifying chi waves. His small body was like a mountain, and he did not budge in the slightest. As for King Xianxia, he felt pain in his palm, and a scorching sensation spread out, as if he was being burned by fire. King Xianxia was shocked. How powerful was the astral defense of a king? How could ordinary flames hurt it? Not to mention, it was even harder to injure him when he used Star-Plucking Hand. Yet he actually felt scorching pain. How terrifying was the flame in Yixing's hand? King Xianxia's figure retreated rapidly, and he instantly appeared 1,000 meters away. "You're just a mere 9th-star venerable lord, yet you've comprehended the grand momentum of fire to perfection? How is this possible?" King Xianxia looked at Yixing with disbelief in his eyes. Even among mid-step kings, there weren't many who could comprehend the grand momentum of heaven and earth to perfection. King Xianxia was a 1-star king, but his comprehension of the grand momentum of heaven and earth was only at the initial stage king level, which was still far from perfection. However, Yixing was only a 9th-star venerable lord, yet he had comprehended the grand momentum of fire to perfection. This truly shocked King Xianxia. Yixing wasn't in a hurry to attack, and he said coldly, "I'll give you one last chance. If you don't hand over the people, I'll turn the Xianxia Palace into a river of blood. Gu Qingxin's incident happened a month ago, and King Xianxia knew about it. He knew who Yixing was here for. Yixing was so powerful. If he didn't kill Xing Haidong, Xin Yi, and Feng Qingze, King Xianxia would definitely hand them over. However, Xianxia Palace had to give Xianxia Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Ceiling Valley an explanation for their deaths. Therefore, King Xianxia naturally wouldn't let Yixing go. You're just a 9th star venerable lord, yet you've comprehended the grand momentum of fire to perfection. This is indeed shocking and simply unheard of, but... King Xianxia looked at Yixing, and his tone suddenly changed. The strength of a king is more terrifying than you think. Do you really think I can't kill you? As he spoke, a beam of starlight shot out from between his eyebrows. He had used the star image. A yellow star floated in the sky. It was an extreme earth element star image. Surging star power poured down, and frightening earth element chi converged. King Xianxing's strength rose sharply. King Xianxia could not only draw in the heaven and earth yuan chi, but more importantly, he could draw it into his body to strengthen it. His control over the heaven and earth yuan chi was far from what venerables could compare to. King Xianxing's palms blossomed with light once again. He had used the star-picking hand, and its might had risen several times compared to before. He was full of confidence. Even if Yixing had comprehended the grand momentum of fire to perfection, he was only at the 9th level of astral reaching realm. King Xianxia had enough power to resist. You're really courting death? Yixing roared. A beam of starlight soared into the sky. He had also used the star image. A flaming star floated in the sky. Surging star power poured down, causing Yixing's might to rise sharply. The fire element chi between heaven and earth converged. Yixing's body burned with visible ethereal fire. He was like a fire god, emitting a frightening aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Yixing's star image and his comprehension of the grand momentum of fire complemented each other. Their might had multiplied, and their strength had also risen sharply. Brothers, please don't waste your monthly tickets. There are only a few hours left. Chapter 731. Double monthly votes from the 1st to the 7th. 1 vote counts as 2 votes. Requesting monthly votes. In terms of aura alone, Yixing, a 9th star venerable, was even more frightening than a 1st star king. A trace of danger flashed through Star Plucking King's eyes. There was a rational voice in his heart that told him to stop. However, as soon as he thought of Star Elephant Palace, Dark Moon Palace, and Demon Ceiling Valley, if he didn't capture Yixing and hand him over to them, Star Plucking King really couldn't think of any way to explain himself to them. A king is still a king after all. Even if he has the ability to challenge those with higher realms, he's still only an astral-reaching venerable. I don't have to kill him. As long as I can delay him until the experts of Star Elephant Palace arrive, I'll be done. A thought flashed through Star Plucking King's mind as he suppressed that feeling of danger. Looking at Yixing, his gaze instantly turned sharp. Star Plucking King roared, "Die for me!" Star Plucking Hand was operated to the limit. That resplendent light made people unable to look at it directly. As his palms slapped down, the air was compressed to the point of rolling waves. Layers of frightening power attacked Yixing. At the same time, Star Plucking King transmitted a message to Star Plucking Palace Master, quickly send a distress signal to Star Elephant Palace. Facing Star Plucking King's frightening attack, Yixing's expression remained the same. In an instant his flame aura surged, and the dark crow bow was also covered in a layer of void fire. The might of fire star form and fire aura completely erupted. Boundless fire yuan chi between heaven and earth rolled over. Bang! The dark crow bow swept out. With a loud explosion, the void collapsed, and the frightening raging flames rushed forward like a sea of fire. The dark crow bow, covered in flames, collided with the Star Plucking Hand, producing a loud explosion. The two figures didn't retreat half a step. Pung pang pang pang. In a blink of an eye, Yixing and Star Plucking King had each launched over 10 moves. Every move was head-on, and the frightening power collided, creating countless ravines in the surrounding ground. A layer of the ground was shaved off. The warriors of the Xianxia Palace, even if they were venerables, retreated 1,000 meters away. Even the venerables would not be able to withstand the shockwaves that spread in all directions. The successive collisions caused the Star Plucking King to become more and more alarmed. Yixing's strength was much more terrifying than he had imagined. Yixing wielded a longbow and was clearly proficient in archery. However, Yixing was able to fight evenly with him with a bow as his weapon. If Yixing used his archery skills, how could he resist? I must not let him widen the distance between us. As long as I can drag it out until the experts from the Astral Elephant Palace arrive, victory will be ours. Star Plucking King thought to himself. Since the Star Plucking Palace had asked for help from the Star Elephant Palace, it meant that they had encountered a problem that one Star King couldn't solve. Therefore, the reinforcements sent by the Star Elephant Palace would be at least 3 Star Kings, or even mid-step kings. The star-plucking monarch didn't believe that Yixing would be able to escape from a 3-star king. The two exchanged moves extremely quickly. In merely a few breaths' time, they had already exchanged dozens of moves. After 50 moves, the balance between the two started to shift. Under Yixing's attacks, the star-plucking king started to retreat. This caused him to be extremely shocked. Yixing's fire aura was too terrifying. Combined with the fire aura, it grew stronger and stronger. Even without using his archery skills, the Star-Plucking King had a feeling that it would be hard to resist. At this moment, the Star-Plucking Palace Master had already received a reply from the Star Elephant Palace through the transmission array. They were unable to lock onto the teleportation array of the Star-Plucking Palace and had already sent a mid-step king to the nearby area to provide assistance. The Star-Plucking Palace Master immediately transmitted a message to the Star-Plucking King, who was greatly shocked. If the experts from the Star Elephant Palace came through the teleportation array, they would only need a few breaths' time to reach the Star-Plucking Palace. However, how long would it take for them to teleport to the nearby area? If they were lucky, they would only need a few hundred breaths' time to arrive from tens of thousands of miles away. If they were unlucky, they would need a few hundred breaths' time to arrive from tens of thousands of miles away. However, in less than 10 breaths' time, the Star-Plucking King had already been forced to retreat. How could he possibly hold on for a few hundred breaths' time? The Star-Plucking King was startled. His actions slowed down by half a beat. He who was already at a disadvantage was flustered by Yixing's attacks. King Realm is only I'm not going to play with you anymore. Suddenly, Yixing let out a cold snort. With a twang of the bowstring, a starlight ripple shot out. This starlight ripple appeared too suddenly. Even as a King Realm expert, the Star-Plucking King was greatly shocked. He retreated with all his might. At the same time, he executed the Star-Plucking Palm and slapped at the starlight ripple. Only after using all his strength did he manage to block the starlight ripple. However, in the next moment, the Star-Plucking King's face turned pale. His eyes were filled with fear. In order to avoid the starlight ripple, the Star-Plucking King retreated a few miles away in the blink of an eye. The distance between him and Yixing was greatly increased. At this moment, Yixing had already drawn the dark crowbow. A resplendent starlight arrow locked onto the Star-Plucking King. Whoosh! The starlight arrow left the bowstring and shot toward the Star-Plucking King like a shooting star. A thumb-sized hole that was a few miles long appeared in the void. It was pierced by the starlight arrow in an instant. Its speed was so fast that even the air could not fill it. It formed a void hole that was visible to the naked eye. When the martial artists of the Star-Plucking Palace saw the void hole formed by the starlight arrow, they could only be shocked. They did not have time to react. The Star-Plucking King immediately felt a life-and-death crisis. He executed the Star-Plucking Palm to the limit. His two hands shone brightly as he grabbed at the starlight arrow. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Just as the starlight arrow was about to be blocked by the Star-Plucking King, the starlight arrow suddenly changed its direction in the void. It changed 9 times in a row. Following the Heart 9 transformations, Man and Bao Union, the second level of archery attainment. The arrows shot out were not only powerful but also impossible to guard against. In an instant, the star-plucking king's hands changed 8 times. When the starlight arrow changed its direction for the 9th time, the arrow's shadow was reflected in the star-plucking king's eyes. The life and death crisis instantly rose to the limit. He shouted in fright, "Stop, I..." Boom! Just as the star-plucking king's voice echoed, the starlight arrow shot into his glabella. A terrifying power exploded and let out a loud explosion. The blood, flesh, tendons, and bones of a king were much stronger than a venerable. The star-plucking king's head did not turn into a bloody mist. However, there was a fist-sized hole in his glabella. The star-plucking king's body instantly fell to the ground. For a king, the glabella was still a vital point. Of course, a fist-sized hole in his glabella was instantaneous. Yi Xing strode in the void and appeared above the star-plucking king's corpse in the blink of an eye. He said coldly, "It's too late to say it now." The martial artists of the star-plucking palace, regardless of whether they were disciples or seniors, witnessed the fall of the star-plucking king with their own eyes. Looking at Yi Xing, who was standing in the void, their legs went soft and their eyes were filled with fear. Even the star-plucking king was killed. This meant that as long as Yi Xing wanted to, he could easily slaughter the entire star-plucking palace. How could the martial artists of the star-plucking palace not be afraid? Yi Xing cast his gaze toward the star-plucking palace's palace master and said coldly, "If you don't hand him over, you'll be next." You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.